Regular meeting of the Wellington Board of Selectmen. Minutes are July 6th. Board meeting July 6th, 2026 at 6:34 p.m. Abel, please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Speak to allow the most opportunity for people to talk about the book without. Second that. Yeah. I want to second it and make that motion. You're just asking to move the discussion to the second president. Correct. Okay. I just don't want to have. No, I just like to move. Yeah, I make a motion that we move president speak budget discussion to the second president speak on it. Okay, I'm going to second that for discussion. Okay, are we moving 4B and leaving 4A? That's what that would be my intent. Yes, to move 4B, second. Under president to speak on the second part. Just because it's under discussion, the other than tax, very simple correspondence, tax refund, public works report. Three things we'll do it. That really won't take us very long. We put the other things first, there's going to be a certain anxiety at a certain point in time that we need to get to the other parts. I'm just, yeah, that's the reason why. Not to deny, but actually to allow more time, less constraint. My reasoning for putting it at the beginning, and I'm dismissing it. My reason for putting it at the beginning was for the people to have an opportunity to speak and have discussion in case it affects anything else in the rest of the meeting. Well, it doesn't seem to tie really to the rest of the agenda, but that's it. Because we talked about business that doesn't go. That's not really budget discussion. Right. We've opened up is about the education that is still resolved. Right. That's not to try to cut anybody off, really do a lot of work. Any more discussion on the motion? 4B. 2. We come to number 13. We're just 13. Okay. We'll move it to the second. Anyone here? Can someone out there unmute and say if you can hear us, please? Hello. You're supposed to, basically, if you unplug things and plug them back in, it fixes them. The white lights aren't on. Hello?
Mike, can you hear me?
Yes.
John
Can you hear
Team. I can hear it's like in and out. I can hear you in and out.
Now it's picking me up, but it wasn't doing that before.
But with a long delay.
It seems to be working better now.
It will just be the delay for the test's sake. I don't think there's necessarily.
Again, the
Yeah.
test.
I think we might be good. Can someone just confirm that you can hear us now?
Yes, we can hear you now, I think.
So, there's a motion. We did, call to order, we did the pledge of allegiance, and there's a motion to move an agenda item from.
I hate to interrupt, but we're back to square one with the volume. When you're sitting at the table, we can't hear you at all. It's in and out.
Science gets us moving. And the rest of it should be about control.
How about now?
Did you just say, how about now?
Is it any better?
Yes, that's better, it seems.
Okay.
If you click on automatically adjust micro, yeah.
You want me to?
All right, the video is gone too.
That's us. Okay, you're still hearing us, John?
Yeah, I'm still hearing you.
Okay.
Good call, Mr.
Well, the lights are on now.
Cool.
Yeah, the vowel's back on.
All right.
All right.
You said there was no video.
Yeah.
I think we're back up.
All right. Pick the camera
Video is back
up.
on.
Flagging.
Yeah, we got video back, John?
Yes.
Okay. So we have a motion. Before we started the regular parts of the agenda, we have a motion to move item 4B, which is the discussion of the Board of Ed budget, to the end of the meeting at the other present to speak. We have been discussing. Is there any more discussion on the motion?
Well, only that. Well. I don't know if we have to have our budget discussion about general government. I think we could let the people speak first. I know it's a little out of order, just trying to accommodate everyone.
Yeah, I think it would be wiser to put it after item 10
Yes, that's what I was thinking, between 10 and 11.
and move 13 present now. Yeah,
Just in the interest of having a robust discussion without finance. Yes.
Okay. So the intent was to move 4B, the public discussion about the ed budget, to in between new and old business.
Correct.
so in a way, we'll have 3 presents.
Okay. Any more discussion? All right, let's vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Now, on to approval of minutes. A, approval of the June 15th, 2026 meeting minutes that I almost tried to read as the agenda. I have reviewed them. I have no
Which is,
comments.
I move to approve the minutes of regular meeting minutes of 6/15/26.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 move to approve the special meeting minutes of July 1st.
I second.
Any discussion? I thought the minutes looked good because I was on the road during the meeting. I wasn't sure I captured all the conversations, so I'm not sure I'm the best judge of what's here, but I think it looks pretty consistent with what I heard while sitting in construction traffic. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Okay, so item 4A, which is present to speak, this will be the regular present to speak. Anyone has any concerns, I would suggest, if you want to talk about the budget, that's fine, but this won't be the Q&A portion. This will just be whatever the normal present to speak is. And then we're gonna have an open discussion where people can share information, which was the 4B that we've moved further out in the meeting. So present to speak, we'll start in the room.
Everyone's here about.
All right, we'll go online. Samsung, your hand's been up for a while. Are you trying to get to us?
Absolutely.
Luke, do you want to talk to us? Okay. All right, you can mute him. All right. Maybe the 3 dots. No, maybe he doesn't have a microphone on that device. Okay. All right, okay, so that's it for 4A, present to speak. Correspondence, email from the Emergency Services Facilities Building Committee, based on discussion at the last meeting, asking the Board of Selectmen, to take some actions tonight. I'll let you, Andy, in a second, I'll let you go on explaining these, and just keep in mind that, I have a couple of updates for a couple of these items.
Okay,
So why don't you just kind of give the background?
sure. This was a letter based on the last Emergency Services Facilities Building Committee email that, we were asking the selectmen to consider the following, that the Board of Finance reallocate Emergency Services Building Committee engineering and planning funding to actual site work and construction preparation for the Station 13 grant execution. The motivation behind the request is that we have an active grant to do construction specifically at the Station at Station 13 on Route 32. That money can't be used elsewhere. In order to execute that grant, there would be some work that needs to be done prior to the execution of the grant that won't be done under the USDA grant parameters. We have learned that Capital Region Council of Government offers engineering and design services that we were not aware of when we requested the original 200,000 for that. We pay to be part of CERCOG, the Capital Region. And so that reduces the need for that original funding request. I understand that because of the costs, that it would be over the Board of Finance's purview to grant that. It would have to go back to a town meeting and be voted on by the legislature, by the public, to reallocate the money. But since we have that money and it hasn't been used, it seems to be prudent to draw from that fund rather than ask for additional funding. That was the motivation. There's another item in that letter, appoint James Knight, but we already have that under new business, so we can cross that off. And the other part of the letter was request that a Board of Finance appointee be a representative to the SFBC. And which is just a simple request that we would make to the Board of Finance. And final part of the letter was to request that the ESFBC that maybe if one or more of the committee members could be acting as clerk of the works for Station 13. The motivation behind that request is that the work that is the U.S. Department of Agriculture is the grantor. They're the grantor. They have very specific and precise inspections and report gathering, weekly inspections. All funding has to be corresponded and approved by them, which is an oversight due to the process itself creates fairly strong oversight in the view of the committee. In addition, any competent contractor is also going to have a project manager of their own. And it was felt that in the interest of reducing costs, that competent, attentive members of the ESFBC committee, which we seem to have, should be able to be there and just sort of be the oversight and make sure that things are done in accordance with what the U.S. Department of Agriculture and the building and the construction managers are saying. And the whole point was cost reduction.
Yeah, just to add to that, clerk of the works is primarily there to make sure that the towns, or in this case, the committee's interests are fulfilled, and to avoid misunderstandings between scope of work. that might have been assumed that the contractor could get away with versus what the, project really requires. And it's just helpful to have some second pair of eyes following through on the work, making sure that things don't slip past.
And then we have also local building inspections, that would be an additional part of oversight that would happen as well, so we felt that. That is,
It's good QA/QC measure.
yeah, good, good, so those are under correspondence, that is the.
So I will, I think I can expedite the conversation on item 1 and 4, because in the continual effort that Chief Moore and I have been having with trying to get clarity from the Department of Ag.
Yes.
As you all know, I had, a meeting with some of Senator Murphy's people a couple of weeks ago, got some contacts. I've reached out to them to ask us to see if they could help interpret what the Department of Ag is telling us.
Yes.
Because we've had clarity, and then we've got an email with different answers or what we think is conflicting answers. That conversation led to, that conversation is ongoing right now behind the scenes.
Okay.
Somewhere in those levels. In the meantime, I also reached back out to, our USDA representative,
Yes.
Megan Llewellyn, and said, based on the last email, could this, first portion of the work, the drainage work, if we were to do the labor in some other manner, not on the grant, because that seems to be one of the problems.
Right, that was-
Construction through the grant is more complicated than materials.
Yeah.
So I reached back out to Megan and said, can we get clarity? Could we at least buy the materials to do the drainage and get that part done on the grant? And the answer came back, she's off for another 2 weeks. She was off for 2 weeks in June, and she's off for 2 weeks now in July. So I reached, and you were on that email, right? You and Mike D'Amato were at that, or maybe I just got an auto reply.
I did not get the response. I saw your email too.
Okay, so I got an auto reply saying she's off for 2 weeks again. So I flipped that back to, there were 3 other people at the Department of Ag she listed as people you could contact if you need something. So I flipped it back to all 3 people at the Department of Ag. Said, while she's on vacation, is there anyone who can help us, please? And I ended up on a Zoom call just a few hours ago with her supervisor and 2 other people from the Department of Ag. And they asked me to send all the materials we had sent previously directly to him. And he's gonna look over it and get familiar with it between now and the 15th when she returns. And he believes that what we were originally told is there's some room here to work with the grant. He believes that is true. And he believes that Megan has been, per their procedure, has been taking a very careful approach. But that he believes now that he's involved, he may be able to guide a little more flexibility, which she doesn't have necessarily the bandwidth or authority to do that.
Makes sense.
And also, some rules changed July 1st. Which are making things easier to use the grant because it's cutting back on the environmental requirements, which has apparently come from the executive branch, because this is federal, backing off on some environmental requirements. And no matter what you think about that being good or bad, what it means is the level of environmental research and engineering we have to do is reduced potentially, because this is we're just talking about drainage around the building. We're not clearing any new land. If we were clearing land, we would have to go with the same rules as before. But because we're talking about replacing the drainage right around the building where there is already drainage, then there's now a less complicated step.
Excellent.
Process, whatever. So, again, every time we've talked to them, we feel like we've gotten a little bit different answer. So I'm not gonna guarantee today's information is exactly what we get 2 weeks from now.
But does that change the request for funding, a funding change?
I believe what it means is I hate to even say it out loud, but I think what he's telling me is that we can do this all in the grant, so we should not try to use local funds.
But make a comment. We do have to upfront the money though. We have to pay, they reimburse. So I don't know how that works, whether we
Right, but if we have it approved by them previous to us starting, then we know it'll be reimbursed, and then it's a different thing. If we're just putting up money up front for reimbursement,
Right.
that can come from different places in our budget, and it's a different approval process.
I just didn't know if we still needed to make that transfer with Board of Finance or.
I think, I hate to say this, cause you know I've been pushing to get this thing done, but I think we gotta sit for 2 weeks. And wait to hear back. I did send them all the information afterwards, after the meeting. And that would mean we do not yet need to worry about a clerk of the works. Because we don't have a project to do yet, and we don't know the scope.
Would you be comfortable with at least, putting it on the Board of Finance agenda to consider this so we understand the process of what it takes to reallocate funding, and if they would even would the Board of Finance consider that? Is that fair to put on there, to ask to put on?
Well, I think we know the process is we would talk with the Board of Finance, and if they would consider it, they would move it, they would ask us to call a town meeting. Because it is a change in the intended use of the money, I believe as was last.
Doesn't it start with a vote from the Board of Finance?
Yes, that's what I
So I guess, so that's what I'm wondering, that,
Right, the Board of Finance would then lead them to asking us to call a town meeting to get the people's approval.
so would you be comfortable then with at least getting it on one of their agendas? So,
I think it would be a great idea to get it on an agenda for discussion. I'm not ready to make a motion that we ask them to transfer the money.
no, no, I'll
But
say
I
it's
think
get it
it'd
on
be great to
there.
have a discussion about it, make sure we understand the process
That's okay.
and understand if there's appetite for it.
Okay, that's exactly what I'm asking for, so, are you comfortable with the?
I can just-
ESPC committee doing that, or is that a BO Board of Finance, is that an us request?
I think it could come from the Board of Selectmen or from the committee to
The
just
committee
ask.
advises the Board of Selectmen anyway, so. Okay, as long as,
Yeah, if you're just asking for a discussion, about it, then I don't think we even have to necessarily.
make a motion,
Yeah, we're not actually asking to move any money.
no, we're not, we're just asking for
Not at the moment.
this, the discussion to take
Yeah.
place. Okay. So, should I make a motion to that effect?
Well, we just said we don't need a
So
motion,
we don't need a motion, okay, just clarifying.
unless we'd like to move that we don't need a
Just to
motion.
make sure that we're doing it right, because if we don't do it right.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea to get a conversation going with the Board of Finance on the process
Okay.
and to see what the appetite is.
All right.
Because that money, there's been some kind of designs on how that money should be used.
Exactly, and at that same time, can we also explore the appointee to the committee?
Yeah, that's a much easier and faster thing to do, and honestly, depending on what the grant does and how this ends up coming together, like if, I know this is dreaming, they can do the whole package in the grant.
Yep.
The job of the, clerk of the works is gonna be very different.
No, this is just, I'm sorry, not the clerk of the works, just to request the Board of Finance appoint a rep.
Yeah.
Can we do
No,
that?
I'm sorry,
That's all right.
I thought we were still talking on the
No,
items.
I know, no, we'll do that at the same time. Because
So you're working your way backwards up the,
I-
because of
we already-
Board of Finance.
we already shined on the,
Okay,
we don't need,
gotcha.
we don't need a clerk,
Basically, we got two items for the Board of Finance.
we don't need a clerk of the works.
Okay, so how about this? I'll send an email to the Board of Finance asking them to appoint a representative.
Perfect.
That's easy. We need a motion for that because it's already in the charge.
And then a discussion regarding reallocation of funding, that's gonna be that vague. All right, that's good. That's it.
Okay, so for those two items, I'll send an email. Okay,
Okay,
so we'll hold off on clerk of the works right now until we know the scope of the project and how it's being paid for. Okay, and then, I think we could. We have James Knight later in appointments, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, all right, so are we good
We're
with
good.
this
Correspondence.
correspondence discussion for the moment?
all good.
Okay,
5A, yes.
okay,
Yes. First ones.
no, I told you about the communication and the Zoom meeting today about that, okay. Tax refunds, we have nothing queued up today. Just a point while people are thinking about taxes, because I just said it out loud, I think probably everyone in the room knows, everyone listening hopefully knows that tax bills going out is delayed from the normal because of the process of getting our budget approved. And, I just checked in with Ashley, the revenue collector. The expectation is roughly 10 days from now, the bills will be available. Roughly speaking, we don't have a commitment on the exact date yet. As soon as the bills are available, they will go up in the online system right away. And we will get 3 boxes full of bills upstairs, and we will put together a team in the building for stuffing envelopes. And we will, get them out as fast as we can get them out the door. The due to pay time period, instead of being July like normal, will be August 1st to September 2nd. And I'll talk about this again in good welfare, just, well, people were hearing the word taxes, I just wanted to touch on
It
it.
helps stuff envelopes.
So the due date's been put off a month.
The due date is pushed out a month, August 1st through September 2nd. Yes. Public Works report, patching potholes, roadside mowing continues, mowed a bunch of sight lines, vehicle maintenance and repairs, empty trash at the park weekly, weed whacking along guardrails in town, catch basin cleaning, tree cleanup after storm, roadside wood pickup from contractors. Just a reminder, when the power company comes through and clears, like a down wire or whatever, they clear a certain amount, they leave the rest for public works. And, so our crew goes around behind them cleaning up the rest. Or if it's on a state road, DOT. Set up and take down boat signs, set up the old town hall for meetings, curbing repairs in multiple spots around town. This is kind of a fill-in job. Curbing that gets damaged typically during the winter from plowing and stuff. As they have time, they'll get a couple truckloads of material and the curbing machine out, and they'll fix a bunch of areas and help Parks and Rec Hall, summer camp equipment hall, school like the bounce house and some other equipment. That is it. And we kind of lucked out on this last storm compared to a lot of other parts of the state. There was just a little bit of cleanup, for Public Works to do after this weekend.
And I guess portion of Stafford just got their power back.
That's it for Public Works report.
Police report makes sense.
Yes, police report. I know you were looking at it. Did you do a deep dive into any of it? Do you have any wisdom to share from the police report?
No, I was kind of looking at the map, trying to see if there's a correlation between some of the fences and the location with respect to 84. Certainly a lot of activity on 84.
Most of the traffic stops are on 84, yes. Well, for any, I suspect most people attending this meeting, have driven on Interstate 84, and they would understand why people are getting pulled over on 84.
Yes.
I typically listen to the state police during the day, when I'm here, and, they are very busy, and, unfortunately, I think one of the things they are very busy with, day and night is, a lot of mental health related calls, which is unfortunate because it means people in the community are struggling, and it means the police are tied up a lot with that kind of stuff. So, that could lead to, police work isn't just pulling over speeders.
Right.
So when you look at these generic categories like 313 calls for service, it doesn't really tell us what type of service that was.
Could be.
Then there's some breakdown. Assist citizen, that could be a flat tire, whatever. So they are kind of generic.
Yep.
But it does seem like it's fairly busy. 313 calls for service during the month of June. And, only about half of those are officer initiated, so obviously about roughly the other half is, by request. Any questions, comments on the police report? First selectman report. Okay, signed the lease renewal for the Halls Pond Beach. I think some people in town know, but for the rest, the property that encompasses all of Halls Pond, but pretty much all of Halls Pond, the majority of it, which includes the town beach, has changed hands, has been sold. And, 210 acres worth, I believe. And, that excludes, the only portion that's not included in that is the dam area, which belongs to the mill, the upper millworks. The dam area coming around towards the Fish and Game Club, and then the Fish and Game Club portion. Those two are not, those were already owned by somebody else, but starting north of the Fish and Game Club, all the way around the lake, all the way around Halls Pond, back around the
To the
beach,
yeah.
including the beach, belonged, is what was just sold. The lease, that the town has to use the beach survives the sale and transfer, so we continue to have the beach available as it was before. And the new owners are local people, well-known local people, and we're not anticipating any, negative impact to the town use. And actually, hopefully in the long run, it's gonna be a good thing for the town. The new owners are closely aligned with the town's history and with the Fish and Game Club. So, you know, I don't see anything concerning about that. Most importantly, our lease continues, through the sale. And, as people know, the millworks has been for sale for quite a while, as many people know, and there is at least one interested party that has come here a couple times to meet with land use and myself. And they seem like they would wanna be good participants, as well, which is critical because the person who purchases the mill purchases the dam, and that's a huge responsibility.
It is.
And dam permits and dam compliance is a really big deal, very expensive. And if people aren't willing to take care of the dam, you have to breach the dam and drain the ponds. I don't ever wanna see anything like that happening.
Only two versions of the word dam in there.
I know.
Yeah, I'm sticking with the, civil structure. Okay,
I know.
for the civil engineers in the group,
Just thinking about the bureaucracy associated.
yes. So that's the lease for Halls Pond. Met with, the town attorneys regarding the Button Hill lease, because of the solar project that we've all been hearing about. That project unfortunately got stalled at one of the final steps because the area that the solar panels will go on the majority of it is outside Button Hill's lease area on the property. It's all the same parcel of land, but it's outside their lease. That created a kerfuffle in the whole thing. The solar company appropriately said, even though the selectmen have authorized Button Hill to sign the lease,
They can't.
it basically, because Button Hill doesn't have purview over that area, now we have a thing. So I met with the town attorneys. They've developed a game plan which has two different possibilities, which should make this work. They're reaching out to the solar people and their attorney to try to get it resolved. One of the likely and possibly least complicated options is we make an addendum to the Button Hill lease, which adds that geographical area to cover where the solar panels will go for the term of the solar lease. When the solar lease is done, our lease addendum would be done also. So essentially, the town would revert back to full town use.
Perfect.
That's one of the possible, but more to come on that.
I'm sure.
Still working back and forth with the attorneys and the sellers of the land on Route 32 for the potential school parcel. Down to the final details of what's called a purchase and sale agreement. This agreement would be the next step from the letter of intent, and it would still be contingent upon many conditions, including public approval. It's essentially just a document to hold the property until the public has had a time to determine, based on the due diligence and everything else, if they're going to approve making the purchase. regular communication over the weekend with Eversource during the bad weather, to track outages. The highest level we had in Wellington was 31 outages, and most of them were resolved very quickly. As I already said, continued conversations with the Department of Ag for the grant. A lot of admin work in the building, supporting the town clerk, the admin assistant, registrars, et cetera, for the referendums. Continuing budget reviews, which we'll be working on soon. Posting of accounting assistant job, which, because Sherry was promoted to the, finance manager job, her job is open. We had a mandatory time period where it had to be posted to the bargaining unit employees first.
Yeah.
As part of the process, that time period is completed now. We will, go out on the street probably tomorrow. And anyone who was interested from the bargaining unit will have an opportunity to, apply and participate and interview. And anyone from the public will probably go out for a fairly short time because we really need to get the new person in there with, the change of the fiscal year and everything else going on. And we only have Donna's assistance for so long to help us, with the transition. Let's see, the postcard that we sent out, got a lot of positive feedback about that. Trying to open up more discussions and get a few more mailboxes, draw the attention of some people who maybe don't participate online or whatever. Really last Thursday, signed a whole bunch of documents to start the printing of the tax bills. There's all sorts of legal documents that have to be tax warrants and things like that. So that's the big stuff. For Okay, new business, discussion of appointments. All right, so we're on to, school building committee first. And I'd like to I'll make a motion to add I don't know what we call it. We're moving up someone from the, alternate to a full member. So, we call it reappointment or whatever.
Is that what we're doing?
Well, we have to have the discussion first. We don't know if we're doing it until we discuss it. I move that we add, the reassignment of, alternate to a full position. As, we'll call it 10A1. We'll make it the new 1 because it should happen before the outside appointment. Can I get a second?
I'm not sure what we're discussing.
Just adding the item to the agenda.
Yeah,
Talk about.
I second, go ahead, that item to the agenda.
So just to discuss, to move up. To potentially move up an alternate to fill a full position before we appoint someone new to.
Understood, yeah, I second.
That was what I screwed up last time, remember, I did not address the alternates potentially moving up.
Yeah.
And we appointed someone directly on the committee, so I'm trying to not do that this time.
Okay,
So this is just the vote to put it on the agenda. All those in
Yes.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Now we can discuss that.
now let's get it on the agenda.
So, we have 2 alternates currently. And I will give, Jim Marshall the nod to speak as the chair of the committee. I believe he's had discussions, and we kind of know the way you've talked with the, okay. You got it. You got it.
So, so with the resignation of Samantha Sperry, who served as the Board of Ed delegate on the SBC several weeks back, the Board of Ed has made the appointment. Peter Bacon has been nominated and appointed more recently to the Board of Education, and was named the delegate of the Board of Ed to the School Building Committee. We had 2 members of the Board of Ed currently on the School Building Committee, and Ruskin, and Peter Bacon. So with that, because Samantha Sperry's Board of Ed delegate seat is filled by a member that is currently on the committee, we have a vacancy that is open to a town member. And with that said, I did reach out, understanding that, again, Peter Bacon started as an alternate, he got moved up to the full-time spot in a similar situation to this, when we had a separate vacancy. So I did reach out to both of our current alternates. Both are interested in moving up to a full-time spot, or to a full voting member spot. And given where the SBC is at in its workings and the urgency of the schedule, having somebody that is very familiar with the work, that's been involved with it, in Lisa's case, from the beginning, from the start of the meeting, since day one. I would recommend that we move one of our alternates into a full member position, at your.
Okay, and just to review, you said Lisa and John are both willing to move up.
Lisa and John are both willing to move up. They're both, interested. I did speak with both of them. It's obviously your decision to make that call, but.
Well, knowing both of them, I think both of them are great options, great opportunities. I think just out of, hang on, let me just finish my.
Okay, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I think just out of, sort of longevity or seniority, if you will, I would probably tip the hat towards, Lisa, but I think both would make great voting members.
Chair, I know this is unusual, but I feel that there needs to be some adjustment to this.
What reason are you, like, why are you?
Because as vice chair of the Board of Ed and someone who's spoken with Peter Bacon since our last Board of Ed meeting, he might not be the Board of Ed representative to the school building.
Okay, so
So
we can still move an alternate up to.
but if his seat doesn't change, I guess that's the question.
I did have some further discussion, and I'll add this to the conversation. I was gonna leave it for the Board of Ed, but, I did have some conversation, obviously, whether it's Peter Bacon or whether it's Ann Grosjean, who is behind us, and Ann has said she would be interested in being the Board of Ed delegate to the SBC. It's ultimately a Board of Ed decision. From the role of the chair of the school building committee, my preference would be to not add a third member, by appointing somebody different as a delegate. Again, it's a Board of Ed. Ultimately, it's a Board of Ed discussion, but, we had two members before Samantha Sperry's, resignation, from the Board of Ed on the committee. I'd like to maintain that, because we have currently two members from the Board of Ed on the school building committee. So rather than bring in a third member from the Board of Ed, I'd like to utilize my recommendation, or my hope would be that the Board of Ed moves forward with either Peter Bacon, as they originally decided, or if Peter doesn't want to do it, and Grosjean, as somebody who's been on the committee again since day one.
So good background information, not our action item right now. Okay.
So let me get this straight. Peter Bacon was originally appointed as an alternate, but then that changed to a voting member.
He got moved up because,
A couple
And,
weeks ago.
a little longer than that.
and then, now Peter Bacon's also on Board of Ed,
He just got, voted in at our last Board of Ed meeting.
and kind of sort of fell into the Board of Ed rep to the SBC.
There was a very informal discussion about it, in which he was willing to take initially, and then after further thought on it, realized he couldn't give his full effort to listen to the school building committee and be able to report back to us. So I've had conversations with him, and so has Brianna, and he was having, he didn't wanna do it if he couldn't give it his full effort. So my only point of bringing that up is I didn't want you to go through these motions now, and then we have a Board of Ed meeting in 2 weeks and things get all shuffled again, and you have to go through the motions again and at your next meeting. That was my only point. Try and make this as straightforward.
So to understand, like, Peter's gonna stay on the SBC, or is
Yes.
he, but not as Board of Ed?
Correct.
Okay.
As is my understanding.
As was my understanding as well from a discussion.
He's gonna be a voting member, but not.
Correct, not
Okay.
not the BOE delegate, if that's his final decision, that I have heard. So,
Right, as he was before Samantha Sperry.
correct.
Yes, okay. All right, so. That leaves us
With
with,
the two alternates again, I don't,
John Tehan and Lisa Eaton. You'll remember Lisa from the interviews originally back
I
at
do.
the beginning, yeah,
she was, whatever, yeah.
okay.
In my observation so far, Lisa's been a very active member of that committee. Absolutely. Even as an alternate, been very involved.
Yeah, and she's been, kind of the,
Communication.
the glue pulling together the, postcard thing.
Yeah.
Drive to New Haven to get the postcards, things like that.
Very active.
Alright, so. I'm gonna make a motion that we move Lisa Eaton from alternate to full voting member of the school building committee.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Alright. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So what is now,
In a term, well, do we need?
until their charge is complete? Yeah, it doesn't have dates.
Effective immediately, of course.
Effective immediately. And I believe, she does not need to be re-sworn in, right, Hannah? We determined that with Peter before, because he was already on. When you move up, you don't have to be sworn in again.
That was the understanding.
Okay, yeah, there'll just be an appointment letter to Lisa in case she's on here. I don't know if she is.
She's not, I was told
Okay.
she had an accident this weekend and is not able to make it tonight. So,
Well, then, I'm gonna make a note under good welfare. Get well, Lisa. Okay. Okay. So she'll get a letter just clarifying that her appointment has changed, but she doesn't need to come in to get re-sworn in.
that
Am
goes,
I right on that, Hannah?
that'll go to the clerk's office directly to me.
Yeah. Good. Okay. 10A number 2, which is the potential appointment of Michelle Rago to the school building committee as an alternate. I don't know if Michelle is with us tonight. I did look at the information. She is an architect. And she wrote. Okay. So we have, and it should be it's in everyone's packets, right? Yeah, okay. So you have, an email string ending with Jim Marshall, some conversations with Michelle. And then there is a board, of selectmen letter from Michelle dated June 29th, expressing her interest, indicating that she is a Wellington resident. That she has two, interests. In this, one is that she has 2 young children who are either currently or will be enrolled soon in the Wellington schools. And, that she is an architect, so she is a design professional and it's, part of her career. So, that is, her expression of interest in it. And, so for the sake of discussion, I will move that we appoint Michelle Rago to the, school building committee as alternate.
Effective immediately?
Effective immediately until the committee completes its work.
My second.
Discussion.
No, she's a 9-year resident, practicing architect. Those were some of the background and skill sets we were looking for, so seems to fit.
All right, seeing no more discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, passes. Okay, we are tabling the appointment of Bill Bennell to the, Housing Authority because, it would appear that, he has conflicting appointments. And, we're waiting for, a little more information from the town attorney to be sure we've interpreted that correctly. But we believe that he may be appointed to 2 different places, so we can't put him on the housing authority. Any more? I mean, it's tabled at this point, so.
No, we'll need to go into details.
Next, the appointment of James Knight from the Wellington Hill Fire Department to the Emergency Services Building Committee. as a voting member. He is currently an alternate representing the Willardale Fire Department, and because of my move from being a voting member to being first selectman, I felt I should move out of being a voting member on the Facilities Building Committee. And this would essentially replace me.
I move that I move that we make James Knight a full voting member of the Emergency Services Facilities Building Committee from an alternate.
I'll second.
James has been, I think he's been to every meeting that he can make,
He's good, yeah.
even as an
Very
alternate. And he's well spoken, he's knowledgeable, he contributes.
And he's president of the fire department, which is
And yeah,
good
so he's
knowledge
a
base.
very valuable member, and it'd be good to have him as a full voting member all the time.
I concur. Any other discussion?
That was it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Jim, would you like to give a school building committee update?
Sure.
We've covered some ground already.
We have, here, let me get guys. No, I got it. Thank you there.
Watch out for the owl. We don't want
Yes,
to mess
thank
with it
you.
now. We're sensitive tonight.
I won't go into too much detail, but just for a summary discussion, what you have before you are a couple of slides from the community conversation event prepared by our architectural team, that summarize the options being considered, and where we're at for, project budgets to date. And additionally, for all three options, well, an addition renovation project to the existing hall school, and two new construction options, one on the existing hall school site or one on a new parcel being explored, immediately adjacent, a little further down River Road. And then the second page gives you the order of magnitude cost for implementing some of the repairs that were previously identified. And while it's technically not the scope of the charge of the SBC, we are evaluating it as an understanding, because we need to understand what the costs are, what these project costs compare against, so that the community can make an informed decision on whether or not to proceed with the project. So while we're not developing a repairs plan, we are utilizing the services of our consultants to develop a capital implementation strategy and associated costs. Should we not advance a consolidated school project, so that the community understands what implementing those repairs, or at least level 1, level 2 priority repairs, will mean for the town in the next 5, 10, 20 years. The last sheet is the preliminary tax impact analysis that we were able to get in advance of that community conversation event. That budgetary work remains ongoing, very much ongoing. We have a tentative next meeting with the financial advisor scheduled for maybe Wednesday, when our OPM can confirm. But we are looking at developing comprehensive project budgets and tax impact assessments for each of these options. As you can imagine, some of them, this work takes time and involves both our OPM, our architectural team, financial advisor, the committee to sign, to review and weigh in. So it is a complicated process, and it does take time. So the financial advisor, understanding that people are clamoring, trying to understand what will these projects cost to the town. We were able to get a single preliminary financing schedule in advance of that community conversation event. And we are working on scenarios for the other options. This one was done largely because it was the simplest one to prepare. In the brief time that we had, she kind of pulled off a tiny miracle getting it to us before the community conversation event. But it represents the new construction on a new site option. As you can tell on your first page, the new construction on the existing hall site is very similar in cost, so it should give you a somewhat representative early assessment for at least those two options. The cost for the renovation and addition project is greater, but only marginally so in its total project cost. So it's probably somewhat reflective of that as well. But one thing to be cognizant of, and that will, when we get those numbers, and that debt servicing schedule kind of identified, it is a longer construction duration. It will be a longer duration of financing and debt servicing. So it will impact these numbers. And we'll get that information for everybody as well. What I'm really hoping, I know you guys are generally familiar with the work of the committee. I know Ralph, you're at just about everything, and Mike's obviously involved. So what I really am interested in having this conversation is understanding both what this impact is and how to kind of, what your opinions are and how to structure this debt. What we've asked the financial advisor initially to take a look at is to utilize the capital reserve savings that we have, that we've accrued over the last several years and that are scheduled to continue for another year, to defer or defray any debt servicing costs until such time as a new school project could become operational. At which time this town can capitalize on the operational savings from consolidation from two schools to one, and the operational reductions in building operations and maintenance costs that are likely the result of a newly constructed building that is more energy efficient, that is more economical, and that is easier, quite frankly, to maintain. So that's what you see in that last sheet. That's how we've structured this initially. As we really engage or continue to engage with financial advisors in the next couple of weeks, next month or so, to develop other options and to refine this further. We're looking for feedback both from this board, slated to be able to in front of Board of Finance in a couple of weeks as well, for a similar discussion, just to understand, because these are the bodies that really, ultimately, we all want to be working together on this, and getting a consensus is the preferred direction as to how to structure this in all of these options so that it's most advantageous to the public. So long story short, because of the capital reserve savings that we have, we are able to structure this so that we don't see any impact from a cost perspective or a tax impact until such time as the building is operational. And the way this initial analysis shows that once operational, the project cost itself only has a $1 million impact to the budget, which is more than offset by operational savings, from consolidation, and then further reduced by the fact that we can, by cost avoidance, and the ability to reduce the reserve funding in the CIP, transfer to reserve fund, because what we have will cover that, and there isn't a project-specific need to continue to continue to invest as heavily as we are for a future school project, because we can do it without. It's what it boils down to. If we maintain that 5 million over a 5-year plan that we're 4 years into already. I am hoping the other options are potentially as favorable. I suspect they all are in that general range. So that's kind of where we're at. If you guys, this is based on a 20-year term, level principal. It doesn't have any benefits, or any discounts applied to it yet, meaning incentives or reduction. I'm not entirely familiar with bonding, but reductions, bond premium reductions. This assumes that the entire contingency that we captured in the project budgets for each of the options is fully expended, which our OPM will say he hasn't had a project that does that in recent history. It assumes the lowest possible reimbursement rate that we're eligible for at 93%. It could be up to 95%, further reducing costs. It assumes the least savings from operation, from a staffing reduction possible that the Board of Ed has preliminarily given us. That has yet to be finalized, and we'll adjust those numbers. But the cost savings, if we don't hit the highest enrollment possible, or the highest enrollment in the projection, would be even greater to the town, thus reducing costs. So this is, we're trying to take a conservative approach in the way this is presented to the community, because we want them to know what the worst case scenario could be. To the extent that we can get these answers, and we're doing a pretty good job of being able to get them. We have a lot of variables left to explore, but if you guys, we could go different financial debt structuring paths. But I think minimizing tax impact was the preferred initial step. And if you guys feel otherwise, now would be the time to consider it and let us know. If you have thoughts to the contrary, but that's kind of where we're at. Over the next couple of weeks, we're trying to continue our community engagement. We have something set up with the senior center next week. Another Q&A and community discussion. We are hoping to have presence at Wednesday summer concert series on Wednesdays, just for the availability to be there to answer questions of the community that comes out. Any way we can get in front of people, we're going to try to do that over the next several months. We are projecting or targeting a referendum sometime early October or late September. We're still working with the registrars to figure that one out. And making sure we're aligning with their schedule and other referendum and election-based needs. Trying to think of what else.
I think that does a pretty good job.
I think that's okay. I'll stop talking now because I talk too much as it is. But yeah, I mean, we're always open to hearing your thoughts, and anybody's thoughts, quite frankly. We've gotten some good feedback since the community conversation event, and whether it's from the board, whether it's from residents, please reach out and ask your questions. We will happily try to get you an answer if we don't have one already. We'll get it if we don't. So.
And everyone, please try to get anyone you know involved so we can get the broadest coverage of the town.
Yep.
I mean, we're what, two postcards so far?
Three. Yes, 3. But the fourth likely coming by the end of the month, just as a schedule update and hopefully with some financials.
And the accuracy on those is not perfect. Like the week previous to the selectmen one going out, I did not get the school building committee one, but I got 2 copies of the selectmen one.
Yep, yeah, it's not, some committee members haven't gotten them, some committee
It's not
members have
perfect,
gotten
but in general, the idea is we're trying to hit every mailbox.
Correct, yeah, and it's the Every Door Direct is an efficient, a cost-effective way, particularly using CROG.
The CCM printing.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Not CROG, yeah, CCM for printing. It's an economical way of reaching out to people in another medium, because not everybody's on social media. Not that many people watch these meetings on YouTube, so it seems to be getting more attention.
That's how we did our postcard also, by the way, and we came in under our budget quite a bit. Yeah.
What was that, I'm sorry, what letter?
Our postcard, we used the CCM printing in New Haven. And even with reimbursing Hannah for mileage, she drove down to New Haven to get the postcards, so they were done being printed. And we still were way under budget.
Yeah, it's there's a lead time and then there's going to get it, but it's economical, so.
Yeah. Do you guys have any comments you wanna offer to Jim at this point about the?
About the proposed project, whatever, anything? One thing that's apparent to me is both new construction do not have a loop road around the building. And I think that might be problematic.
That has been raised to them as well.
Your middle project, you're siting that building on top of that lower soccer field right next to a stream that is South Lincoln Brook or whatever it's called there.
Old South Lincoln Brook, yeah.
And I know Mike and I have walked that site. That brook is actually, when it comes out underneath 32, the elevation of the brook is higher than the field.
Yes.
That's gonna be a problematic site for a building. Topography kind of lends itself to a 3-story building. But foundations is gonna be a challenge for that site. And if you don't get into some geotechnical investigations in that location, you may be in for some surprises.
I should have mentioned that actually.
Already underway.
We have, through our PM, they developed an RFP for geotechnical investigation, both on the new site and largely focused on the new site, to vet it as part of.
Because of timing.
Because of timing. Also because we have a fairly extensive history with the Hall, site, even if it's not recent. So that work is out there. We're anticipating quotes for that work the next week or two. We recently approved limited site clearing to allow for that geotechnical investigation to happen on the new site. Basically to clear paths to get a rig in there to drill the holes and do the test bits. So that work continues. Over the next month or so, we'll get some further clarity on the types of soils in the area, particularly on the new property. And then I'll just, to answer your question or to respond, I guess, to your concern is, these are, again, the initial rough order magnitude contract budgets. They are subject to further refinement for project
Designs.
designs.
Yeah.
They are subject to and will be refined. It's a very iterative process with many checkpoints along the way. So all of that work, the other thing we're trying to be cognizant of is this work isn't reimbursable by the state until a project is approved by the voters. So any work spent upfront beyond what we need to, we're trying to be as conservative and economical as we can to do the due diligence we need.
With what you just said,
Yes, sir.
you just talked about reimbursement. Not reimbursable until.
You can't back reimburse.
Well, that's the clarity that I'm looking for in what you just said.
Correct.
The implication was it would be reimbursable if the project went forward.
And until project costs and project spending is not reimbursable until after approval.
And also the clarity you're looking for is even if they were incurred before and the project gets approved, they are not reimbursed. You cannot get reimbursed for anything until it happens after the date of approval.
Right, so the site investigation,
That's happening right now is not reimbursable no matter what.
the
Correct.
site clearing
Correct.
is not reimbursable.
That is correct.
So I would trust that on these three parcels of land next to the Willimantic River, and any site clearing is going to be very selective and at minimal cost to the taxpayer.
Very much so, I guess. We approved a not to exceed number of $3,000 at our meeting on Friday. It's probably coming less than that. It's basically an hourly rate for somebody to come in at $200 an hour and clear a path with a big brush hog.
No, I understand.
Dig some pits.
The clearing works.
Yeah.
Got some nice machines to do that pretty quickly.
Then you might, but the rest of the public might not. So,
Another thought for consideration, and I've talked with a couple of people about this. Those three parcels next to the Willimantic River, I feel would be a wise investment for this community to purchase that real estate, separate from a school, just to acquire that real estate. We have a village just a little bit north of that that's starving for commercial development, that is hamstrung by the fact that we do not have wastewater treatment capability for the entire village. And it's very densely developed, and it inhibits future development because we got to deal with septic systems. So those parcels could lend themselves to a future wastewater treatment facility.
It's not in the charge of the SBC.
I know it's not.
I do too. A little levity never hurt.
Let me finish here. However, the addition and renovation option for Hall, which I think most people know that's my favorite choice, to destroy that 1922 core building would be a travesty, in my opinion. And I will go to my grave maintaining that position. That 1922 building needs to be preserved. The wing to the south, I don't care what happens to that. But the 1922 structure, the gym behind it, and the two side additions, I think, need to be utilized. Now, we talked about impact of construction on students. One of those parcels behind Stock and Lock could be a staging area for that project. You don't have to do it right next to the building. If we're gonna use that for recreational fields, maybe, that's not in this plan here, but it could be. You're gonna have to connect the parcels. It's a travel path for staging.
Correct.
Good thing to think about.
So, I mean, if I may, so yes, if we were to proceed with any option on those new parcels and it were to be a part of a future school project, ultimately those lots would all be merged into a single parcel if they were related to the school construction, because they have to be as part of the as part of the grant approval process.
Yeah.
They will not, multiple parcels are not allowed. They won't reimburse if the parcels are merged as one.
So my
that's
understanding from the previous school building committee, and maybe the ground rules have changed, was that you were only going to get reimbursed for the acreage necessary by the ed spec.
Things have changed. Which is the advantage.
Is that still the case?
That is, so the wonder of the special legislation is that the square foot reimbursement, the state reimbursement calculations are different to us because they
For the construction, I get that.
correct, but it's point well taken, and I will work to address that with our OPM and architectural team. Because I want to make sure that I get you the concise and precise answer on it. So I will get it for you, rather than my word salad today.
Well, when I recall with our 419
Yeah.
students on the previous SBC, we needed 19 acres. We were looking at what was the property off Adam. It was about 60 acres or something,
62 maybe?
something like that. We were only gonna get reimbursed for 19 of the 62.
And again, the acreage is part of that state reimbursement formula. So whether it's, we're alleviated from the space waiver requirement. I believe that is the understanding, but I will get formal clarification for you
It
on
would
it.
be nice to understand
Absolutely.
how much of any land acquisition is coming purely out of the taxpayers' fund.
So the only comment I'll make on that is we're working at it's subject to appraisal, and that comes into it. So anything over the appraised value, I think ultimately is fully borne by the town, but again, we're working on that, and I believe Mike's office is working on that as part of the purchase and sale negotiations, let's put it that way.
Yeah, I've heard from the appraisers that they're engaged. They have called here to check some information and they are working.
Yes, we also have somebody out doing an appraisal as part of that due diligence as well. What I will say is, to answer your point about Hall, that's why we're exploring multiple options, so that people have the opportunity to provide feedback and weigh in on multiple options. To provide direction to the SBC and the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen as to what projects should be considered. What I will say is it all comes at a cost, right? So this is,
Oh, I know.
these are the project costs, the cost to renovate Hall into a future use beyond it being limited to, maintaining Hall and a new school on the existing Hall site without any additional land is not viable. So that's why it removes that project. That project option removes all, because there needs to be some recreational area as part of to satisfy the educational specification need. What I will say is that we've asked our architectural and OPM team to prepare costs, order magnitude costs for consideration of both what to do with center and what to do with Hall, meaning costs to demolish center if it were not to be used for an educational building. Costs to demolition of home will be covered by the grant at 93 to 95% reimbursement. So that largely negates the demolition cost if it were not to be used. But we're also having to prepare a value for if we want to renovate hall or center for alternative use. This is what it's going to cost the town above and beyond this. That'll be up to the taxpayers to decide whether that cost is something that should be considered. So, these are all good questions. They're all subject to discussion. We'll get you the numbers so that we can evaluate that. But I can tell you the renovation of hall, if it's not used as a school and not captured as a grant, is going to be it's going to be millions of dollars. So, and that's an expense the community needs to come to terms with, if that is a path that they want to choose. And that's fine. The community can make that decision, but that's why we're trying to get your costs associated with it.
I don't get the sense that the way things are evolving here, that the community is going to get to make the decision as to which course of action we go on. The community is going to be able.
Are you having a health problem, Pete?
We are going to
Do you
be
need an
able to
ambulance?
offer input
Okay.
to the committee, and the committee makes the decision as to which project option moves forward.
The committee will make a recommendation because we have to make a recommendation as part of a process of the Board of Finance and Board of Selectmen. What we are working through and what the Selectmen's Office is working through as well is how to engage and what that mechanism looks like. So that we can offer the town the ability to provide insight and input on what option we can recommend. Ultimately, we're relying on our consultants who do this work on a regular basis. And ultimately, this town needs approval of a single project as part of the grant application, OSCGR.
That I understand.
Yeah. So we're trying to figure out how to do that while also maintaining viability in the grant application process. We don't want to fall foul of anything that could jeopardize reimbursement after the fact. So we're working to figure out how to best accomplish that.
We have a great opportunity as a community here with the legislation that
Absolutely.
that we were able to get through. And I think that's a great thing. From my personal perspective, anything that preserves the original 1922 building, even if it costs me more in my taxes, I would be happy to do that.
That's great.
So, because that's a legacy building that we don't have a lot of in town, and it's very connected to the village and that entire area. To lose that structure, it would be, like I said, it would be a travesty. It's my personal opinion.
It's a valuable opinion. It's one voice. We have many
Yeah.
community members. We're trying to get everybody's input, so it's a valued one. It's one we're definitely exploring and maintaining, which is why we have a whole option on here as well.
I feel a lot of value to the historical. I feel there is a lot of value to the historical context here. I think we should. That's part of the reason that I have maintained a conversation with the Hall Foundation representatives, even though we have not been able to set up a meeting.
Yeah.
I've continued to stay in touch with them to make sure they know that we want to, and we want to make sure they're involved in the conversation. But I think also we should be, using tonight more as a board we need. And in my mind, as a board, I feel like this part of the conversation about engaging the public on helping decide which project is amenable is probably one of the most critical pieces of the whole thing. The difficulty we experienced with the previous SPC, and even the difficulty we experienced with this one in getting larger groups of people engaged, is a hard nut to crack. We're trying a lot of things, and so I really hope the committee does everything, which obviously I participate in. And I hope everyone who's listening to this does everything to pull more voices in. Because that decision does have to be made soon. What do you support? Do you, like Ralph, value the historical building over some other considerations? Do you value more the field space and some of the other things over other considerations, whatever that is? We want the strongest, most inclusive input from the public, which is very challenging.
I mean, I agree 100%. Ultimately, advancing a project is of critical importance. In some capacity, just from a fiscal reality standpoint, so. Ultimately, whatever we can do to make that be the most beneficial to the most amount of town, the better off we're gonna be. Yeah, so, but not capitalizing on this, this opportunity is going to be detrimental in the long-term fiscal.
It's 8 o'clock. I'd like to move us on.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Jim, for the
Thank you, guys.
report. Anything else critical for Jim before we move on?
No, well, I appreciate the ability to offer some thoughts from my.
Absolutely. If you ever have more, ask them.
Oh, you know I'm not.
You should attend a school building committee. Share some thoughts.
I do.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
See you, Jim. Thanks.
Thank you, Jim.
Now I'll sit up in the front row for the rest of the day.
Okay, so now, we are at the point of the item we moved up from the beginning. Which was 4B. In accordance with what we discussed last week at our special meeting of the Board of Selectmen, we concurred that we, should offer another opportunity for the community to, express any concerns or ask questions and see if, there's another opportunity to, engage with the community about our current situation with trying to get a Board of Ed budget that is amenable to the majority of voters. So that is where we are. I will. We need a moment for right there? Okay, you want us to wait for it?
No, go ahead.
Okay. You have anything you wanna contribute to the conversation before we start?
Before we start.
Okay, just to give my point of view on why I suggested this as a possible option is that was not on any judgment on what happened during the Board of Finance meeting previous to our meeting. It was just recognizing that people were asking for another opportunity. I didn't believe that scheduling what we officially call as a public hearing was the appropriate answer. So we kind of got going on this idea as an option to add some public engagement. So I was hoping that would get us partway through Ralph's time. If anyone would like to start, and you don't mind starting before Ralph comes back in the room, I'll take hands in the room first, and I just will ask that, I know things, I wasn't in the room last Wednesday, I know things got a little heated. These are important issues, they're emotional, but I'm gonna please ask that everyone be respectful. And I'm going to be, I'm gonna work hard to maintain the decorum, and I will remove people from the room if it gets out of hand. I've verified the right to do it. We're not gonna have shouting matches, we're not gonna have personal insults because you will leave the room. If you don't leave the room, we will end the meeting and we'll all go home. We have to engage with decorum so that we can actually get somewhere with these discussions. Who would like to speak? Raise your hand.
Hi, Liliana Borelli, Jarvis Sparks Road. So, Bruce had to leave. He had a previous engagement, and since the president's speak was moved, he, left this letter for me to read. Bruce, this is from Bruce Lawler. Bruce Lawler, 48 River Road. A present member of the Board of Finance. He intended to be present to speak, but the amending of this evening's agenda would have interfered with, an engagement, a previous engagement that he had. Room at this evening's, meeting was made for a discussion in regards to the budget. As the agenda stated, it is not an official public hearing. And it is not an official part of the budget process. Only an opportunity for the public to introduce any last thoughts that may have been missing so far in the process. End of quote. The time for this opportunity was at the July 1st Board of Finance meeting regarding budget referendum number 4. Ms. Somers, now the Board of Finance Chair, unilaterally deleted the two present to speak items from the agenda, preventing any public input in regards to a third failed budget. We were rushed to a 20-minute meeting to make room for a Board of Selectmen meeting. As a former Board of Finance Chair, I was asked on 2 or 3 occasions for the use of the lower room for other meetings. I granted the request and made the meeting upstairs, all in the name of allowing public engagement. Unfortunately, the current chair prefers as little public engagement as possible, just as the agenda was amended this evening. It could certainly be amended a second time, so the Board of Selectmen may consider sending this budget that was adopted on July 1st, 2026, back to the Board of Finance, so that the public may have the opportunity to state their opinions in regards to the budget. It is the fair, democratic, open, and transparent way for the process to go forward. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just making sure I got some key points here. Okay.
I have a point of clarification. You had said this was open for question and answer and going to be a little less formal than the way we typically
Yes.
do present to speak. Does that mean we might have a chance to speak a second time if another question comes up, or should we plan on, given the number of people
Well,
here? You've got only so much time tonight. How would you like us to proceed in terms of process?
I would like it to be as, give and take as much as possible, but I have no intent of being here at like 11 o'clock tonight. So
Okay.
I don't know if we can fit, if we can fit within those 2 ideas.
No, I could talk for 3 hours on this topic.
Okay, thank
scare
you for
you?
your comments. Can we move on? Okay, let me go to online. Anyone online, please feel free to raise your hand. Okay, back to the room. I just want to comment, to Bruce's letter, I understand the point that was made. If his idea is to express the concern to us because he feels we should take another move, I appreciate that. I'm not, as I said at the meeting on Wednesday night, I'm not inclined to change the way the budget process is done and add another hearing in. I think that is outside of our normal process. But point taken, I do hear his concern. Do we have anybody else who wants to either participate in that conversation or bring up some concerns of your own? Stephanie?
Oh, really had other comments planned, but I feel the pressure actually to comment on this one. And that is,
Can you just identify for the rest?
Stephanie Summers, I'm the Board of Finance Chair, so alluded to. The agenda was never amended, nothing was excised from it. It was a special meeting, a quick meeting. When I was setting the agenda, I was very conscious of the Board of Selectmen's task once the Board of Finance was finished. So that is why I dispensed with the present to speak, which has been done regularly by the selectmen themselves, especially when they're doing budget sessions and other things like that, and then they call special meetings. There often is not a present to speak. There's plenty of town precedent for that on boards. It's certainly been done on the Board of Finance before. I'm not the first person. So I feel like that was mischaracterized there. I was out of state. That was an issue with how quickly we needed to work on this or to call this meeting. But I want to just reiterate that we have had some of the lengthiest present to speak sessions of any board in town. I think that's fair to say. I don't know if there's a competition for it, but I think we would definitely be.
I'm gonna win it.
We would have made it way past round 16 of the World Cup. So, So anyway, I think, one of the things is, that, we, sorry, kind of lost my train of thought there. But there was another point I wanted to make about it.
We can come back if you like.
Yeah,
Want a
Yeah,
moment to
maybe so.
reset?
yeah.
Okay, other comments in the room?
You've got a hand up on.
Peter Littich, 97 Trask Road. I want to thank Selectman Trulis and Selectman Marco for allowing this opportunity tonight. Like many in town, I felt that throughout this budget process, the townspeople have not had an opportunity to participate in the process. Yes, there have been many present to speaks, and yes, there's this interpretation that the budget hearing is a quote, continuous process, unquote. But we are a town meeting form of government. The townspeople decide this budget. Not the Board of Selectmen, not the Board of Finance, not the Board of Education, not the Superintendent of Schools, not the Chair or the Vice Chair of the Board of Education. The townspeople decide this budget. Therefore, it's important for the townspeople not just to have access to the process, but actionable participation in the process. And to do that, that can only occur at one time in our current statutory town meeting form of government that we've done. Whereby at the public hearing, if the Board of Finance received enough input at that public hearing, the budget could go back to the Board of Finance. Something that could have been very meaningful, given the 3 referendums we've already had, to have that kind of discussion. That didn't work this time. The one public hearing that we had, we received the information for the budget that as we walked into the public hearing. That wasn't really adequate time for people to really understand the budget and provide good feedback for the Board of Finance. That could have been very useful. So I would strongly urge the selectmen tonight to take this. I agree with the first selectman to this degree. It's an unusual format. But leadership is important. We were promised that after the last election, and for the executive branch to allow townspeople who have rejected 3 budgets to have a say. The one group that has not been at the table, all the special interests, all of the boards and committees have all weighed in. The townspeople were just told, well, you can just vote again. And there's this overwhelming sense in the community that the town government just decided we're going to wear you down by dragging you to as many referendums as possible. I hope that's not the case. I hope you send us back to the Board of Finance to have a meaningful discussion about this budget and respect the townspeople who have rejected it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. Unfortunately, you put me in a position of having to rebut some of your mischaracterizations. And only because we can't let the record stand. The public's only opportunity to see the budget was not just right before that meeting. The budget had actually been out earlier, but it got amended before that meeting to be better. In a better condition for the taxpayers, because we got updated information due to changes with health insurance and various other items. So there had been material out there. Plus, there had been, and I know you are aware because you attended most of them, there had been 3 months of meetings, sometimes multiple meetings per week, developing the budget. So
I do understand your concern about the hearing and then going to a meeting where essentially and maybe we have an opportunity to do that even better next year. We are doing the same process that has been used here for maybe hundreds of years. We're doing it the same way with all of them. I don't think it's right to characterize it as the public or told. I think everyone works what they believe to be the right thing to do to see if they're gotten to a budget that is passable. We hear people speak passionately at meetings that it should be lower. We also hear people speak passionately at meetings saying we're cutting too much, don't cut anymore. So there's no one answer until we get to the right place. So, I mean, this was an opportunity to have some discussion like this. We can't go back the clock to before the public hearing, because the public hearing was April, whatever the date was. But to characterize it as the townspeople not being considered, I think people, how many can you even? We have to go back and count the amount of meetings. And then in many of the night, that's public. Yeah.
I would take that auto off and make it as high as possible.
I hate to interrupt, but we lost the audio online again.
Now,
That
John?
seems better. That seems better. Are you back now, Mike?
okay. Steph, you handle it up?
Yeah, do you wanna see where it cut off and recap or not? Okay. No, the thing I was gonna point out is the Board of Finance season, you know, which I would call a pretty lively season, since the meetings are weekly, in the budget season, and there's a lot of prep that goes between them, and a lot of presenting and questions and follow-up. It's 4 months, but this year it's 6 months. So I wouldn't say there's been, you know, a reduced amount of time because of all those additional meetings when the public has had an opportunity to speak. And honestly, some of our public to speak, our present to speak moments have gone an hour and a half, 2 hours. That's not unprecedented, and it's happened pretty regularly. So I think I feel like every member of the Board of Finance, regardless of what their positions are on specific issues, welcome that and are interested in that and have their ears open. So I think, you know, and that's why we do it. We're one of the boards that does it at the beginning and at the end, because we recognize action also deserves some comment. Action that night deserves comment, and we're helped by that, even if it's criticism, especially if it's criticism. So I wanted to mention that. I did have some thoughts that were a little bit factual about the budget, but I'm not sure if this is the moment to say that or not. Is it? I'm kind of confused about
Well, it's open conversation. If you want to clarify, then go ahead.
Well, I just want to point out a few things because, you know, because I like to deal in some kind of logic when thinking about budgets. Although I've been told. People's lines. Uh-oh. I thought maybe someone was trying to say, no, I'm not hearing. That was background voice. Okay.
It's in somewhere.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, first of all, at the beginning of the budget season, the federal rate of inflation was 3.8%. So that, because of, you guys know the factors, mostly, you know what the factors are. But then at the end of May, that the federal government increased that. It's the U.S. Board of Labor The Board of Finance on Wednesday night arrived at an option that took another almost 80,000 out of the K through 8 proposed budget. And for a total of, by the way, 428,000 out of the budget since appropriations night this season. And that was right before, that was before they sending the budget to the first referendum. So with all three referendums, it's totaled 428,000 in reductions to the ask. Now that sounds like a lot of money. It is a lot of money, but for starters, the school board had to deal with 712,000 in new costs that were contractual or statutory. So the amount we've arrived at in terms of the budget growth is only a third of those three factors that were driving their budget. One being an extra outplacement student, the teacher contract increases, and the healthcare increases that you guys put out to bid and got down, but it was still 16.4%, I think.
Or more.
16.8, I couldn't remember. Anyway, so all those factors together, arrived at, over 700 grand. And, the budget increases like, a third less than that. A third of that. So it's not, and we're very close to the minimum increase allowed year over year statutorily, very close. So it's pretty much down. And one of the things that, so the reason I kind of have to do logic, because I'm the Board of Finance chair for one, but I have to, I do look at the data, and I know that sounds like, a bunch of numbers and boring or whatever, and I'm sorry for that, but it's the only way I know how to deal fairly. And I think that especially when we're talking about the economics of running a town and running two schools is not something that we can control as much as people seem to think we can control, and especially not when our revenues are flat. So I think everybody is trying. I think everybody's bending quite a bit. I think what I get frustrated about is when people kind of toss out, I think the tax increase, which is different from the budget, the spending increase by quite a lot. I think the tax increase should be 2 or 3%. That sounds about right to me. And the other thing that frustrates, because I don't know what that's based on. That's not based on reality. But what I do wish though is that we could find a better way of communicating the town's story about putting a budget together as it proceeds, which we don't have that infrastructure for, try as we might. We've always counted on the Chronicle or the JI to carry stories about the budget process. And that's been very helpful, and people can read it and then react. And they do. But now there's open season on misinformation, and it occurs out there. I pass signs all the time that mischaracterize what's happened. Even during the July 1st meeting, as before the gavel fell on the Board of Finance meeting, someone in the room posted on Facebook incorrect information about what the increase was, exaggerating it. So all of that gets in our way. And I think it falls under budget process discussion. Thanks.
Thank you. Just on the growth, and I do think it is particularly distressful from the feedback I've gotten this year that, as you said, the growth in taxes is outpacing the growth in expenses. And in the end, even if people feel the expense increase is reasonable, if their tax increase is more, that's what they're basing a lot of their decisions on, because that's what they have to pay. It's the effective increase. The other thing that can create some confusion that I've worked hard to try to understand and even unravel myself is how sort of different portions of the budget affect certain things and what pulls things up and what pulls things down. And a discussion in this building over the last few days has been in trying to address, like the former first selectman has been really strong about bringing up the point that the operational budget for the town, general government, has been struggling for growth, and that it's not an effective way to run the town if you're cutting back on the operational. And particularly, he was making the point that he felt that education was outpacing operational, and for there to be balance in taxation, we were essentially cutting back operational more to make up for increases in education. And that was kind of sitting with me, you know, because I had worked with both of these gentlemen this year to try to figure out what was a reasonable general government budget. And I think we, at least remembering our conversations, we had the same concerns, but we didn't have the concerns to the level that like the former first selectman was speaking. So I started looking back to try to figure out, I knew we had cut a lot from the public works request. And I started trying to figure out, you know, where is it? Why is this slide happening between general government and education? We understand that education has had impacts. I'm saying from our side, from the general government, why is this happening? And what I realized once we started looking at the math, and Phil and I and Sherry all had to go over this on paper to make sure we were agreeing on what we were talking about, is that really it's not as far off as we thought. That the fact of the matter is, because capital is captured in general government, that's where the change is really happening. And maybe some people know this already, but I had to do this exercise in the actual numbers. And because capital is woven through a lot of stuff, so like things that are in the capital plan are not always funded directly in capital accounts. They're not always funded directly by the taxpayers. You know, it could be grants, it could be something that's not in a capital account, but it's in an operational, like Public Works carries a bunch of debt service in their operating budget. So Sherry and I separated out any of the capital money that's going in reserve savings, because that's not committed to a specific operational cost or a loan or a debt retirement right now. We left all that debt retirement, anything else from the capital plan that's swimming in the budget, we left in the budget, but we took out just the things going to reserve, the school reserve, the fire departments, open space. And that's really where the story became clear. For example, in the budget from fiscal year 24 to fiscal year 25, education had a big jump. House placements, it was a 6.7% increase in that year. The previous year was a 0.8% increase, but there was a big jump in that year. So the same year there was a 6.75% increase in education. There was a 3.8% increase in general government, a reasonable increase. And there was a reduction in the capital reserves. 3.6% reduction in capital reserves. The next year, going from fiscal 25 to fiscal 26, the Board of the K through 8 increase was much smaller. It was 0.25. The general government was,
Thank you.
the general government was 2%. So
Hey, guys, we lost audio again. Yeah, the whole thing is frozen. I think they dropped out entirely. Can anybody hear me?
I can hear you, John. This is Don.
Hey, Don. Yeah, the town hall is gone.
Okay.
I guess we'll wait for him to come back.
I guess. I mean, I'm not sure if they can hear us, so I'm going to stop talking.
Yeah, I guess we're in our own world here, huh?
Yeah, I guess so. I don't think they can possibly be recording us because they're not here.
I find it interesting that it also, Mike McCoo is not available as a view, even though he is most often the speaker. So Zoom's not working too well tonight, say the least.
Wellington
I'm gonna
Public
sign off.
Library. Pardon me?
I'm gonna sign off.
Okay, see you, Larry.
Yeah, bye.
Wellington Public Library is asking if they made changes to the $70,000 in the town budget, or is this after that, or is that after this? No, they've already made a reduction to the Board of Education budget of $72,000 to send back to the voters for a fourth referendum.
They're supposed to be talking about the 70,000 after this, though.
They are? Okay.
Yep.
But I thought that was already passed through the Board of Finance, correct?
There was a 70,000. Yes, but they didn't decide where it's coming from yet.
Right.
I don't know if that's what Steve was asking about.
Well, I don't know if, Town of Wellington Selectmen, are they coming back?
Wow.
Looks it. Yep.
You hear us?
Now,
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. We didn't say anything important while you were gone. Let me just finish with where I was when we got cut off. So, when we lost Zoom, I was just pointing out the percent increases over the last 3 or 4 budget cycles. And actually at the place we are now, where we're looking, if we take out the savings, the capital reserve savings money, and just look at the operational budget for general government and the operational budget for K through 8, coming into this new fiscal year right now, the general government is a 2.7% increase. The education is a 2.6% increase. So despite the concerns, the legitimate concerns that we were taking too much away from general government because of the cost of education, we're actually now, education is slightly under the increase of what general government is. And the big delta there, the big cause for that to look different before was the cuts that have been made in savings. And that is where, when you move out the savings from the general government budget, then you see the 2 operational budgets. So that was the end of my point that was made.
And I was pointing out that the savings part of it is 200,000 of the 220,000 cut was school savings. So that is sort of a double whammy on the education effort intent. But in addition, I wanted to comment on public works. That's the largest town budget, of course. It's 2 million, about 2 million. So what they put in for was a 25% increase, which was 500 grand, about. I'm using rough numbers. Board of Finance took that down to something like, leaving them something like 100,000. That was the idea anyway. And so that's still a 5% increase, which was well above what we're talking about for the schools. So I don't know how, because I don't know how the Board of Selectmen are applying the $70,000 cut. That would be further reduced, but I think that's close to what they were left with. they still got an increase, but yes, does Public Works probably need a much bigger 5-year plan that sort of grows its budget, given the paving issues and and the tree issues and some of the other infrastructure we're talking about? Yes, I would totally go with that. It's just that in 1 year, a 25% increase is probably never gonna sail these days, in my opinion.
Thank you. Anybody else in the room? Any other comments on this discussion?
You have to look up.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I've been switching pages for quite a while, trying to find it on page. I'm close, so, Public Works is currently at 2.1%, Stephanie.
Okay.
That's where the increase now is at.
Some of that.
2.1%, yeah, okay.
Excuse me. Yeah, thanks, Jim Marshall, Fisher Hill Road. I'll put on my other hat now, which is chair of the CIP committee, and just say, echo all of that prior discussion, because it's something I've been screaming till I'm blue in the face for the past 3 years. Because for the past 3 years in particular, capital reserve savings has been used to hide or offset budget increases artificially. And it is a bad habit that is unsustainable and that we can't continue to do. I know we did it again this year. But the reality is every time we do that, it becomes more unsustainable in the following year. Because the budget, we get further behind on the capital, and the budget increases look more dramatic if it's a direct operational increase in the following year, because we've artificially lowered it in the current year. It is something we cannot continue to do. And I'll just leave it at that. I know it's a hard frame of thought, and a hard habit to break, but it's something we really need to look at earnestly and figure out a way to address it in community conversation moving forward, because we can't continue to do it. So I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
What's the alternative?
Increase revenue.
Okay.
Because we're at a point where we're making probably unwise cuts in all of our budgets. And on top of the fact that we're keeping nowhere near enough money in fund balance. We've been proud for a long time of our very conservative fund balance plan of staying between 8 and 12%. But in this day and age, it doesn't work. It's 1 month of expense budget. And that's, the auditors have been telling us for years you should have 3 months, and we've said, funny guy. He doesn't understand. We're good at being conservative and thrifty. We don't need that advice. Turns out we needed that advice. Regardless, it doesn't mean the taxpayers want to pay for it. They understand we have outplacements. Doesn't mean they want to pay for it. They understand we need savings. Doesn't mean they want to pay for it. They understand we need to pay more roads. Doesn't mean they want to pay for it. That is the problem. So if it's not appetizing for the taxpayers to fund those programs,
Correct.
the only other alternative is we get more money coming in another way, which is revenue.
All right, so because of all these discussions throughout the budget season, I have not heard very many discussions about how to increase revenue. If that truly is the answer, there aren't enough of them. And I know we have a economic development commission and we're a committee, but we as a group don't talk about increasing revenue on a regular basis.
We have been trying to get a mutual meeting set.
Quick, make a toast, Otis. Here's to a new month with this.
Whoops.
I was hoping that was gonna be a new month with new revenue.
That's very exciting. Somebody came up with the answer.
All right, back to reality. I think a joint meeting about talking about what incentives.
But it really should be part of every conversation. If that is the answer.
Yeah.
Then that should be forefront in all of our discussions, regardless of how does this relate to increasing revenue, or how can we relate it to increasing revenue? Because I agree that we have to have an influx of money from someone other than taxpayers. So that's gotta be forefront.
So I think, Andy, what you're Michelle Cunningham,
Thank you, I was wondering.
Thank you. You didn't recognize me, right? What you're missing is that it's not just the local government that is responsible for raising income. If we in Connecticut tax the ultra wealthy and they paid an effective tax rate of what I pay, we wouldn't have to worry about paying for schools. The schools could be paid for by the state of Connecticut. Well, the point is that we are not the only people responsible for raising that income at the town level. The way the state is structured pushes that responsibility on the property taxes. And the problem is the state structure. We are feeling that pain.
Well, we are part of that conversation as well, if we exercise that.
Right.
And that is part of that, what we have to be talking about.
Exactly. So that's why I wanted to
You're
make
talking
sure.
to me about it, I can't change that either.
I know.
But we can,
Yeah.
we focus on that.
What I wanted to add in is that there are other ways to raise town revenues, such
Correct.
as state
Yes.
grants, right?
And that's what we
Right?
should be talking
And that's
about
what we should be talking
all
about.
the time.
Right.
We should be
And
talking
I feel
to-
like frequently what people say, move right from the conversation of we need to lower our tax rate, therefore we need to pay for X
cut spending,
or we need to bring in this economic development project. Yes, we need economic development in town, but no matter how much economic development we're gonna bring in, it cannot happen fast enough to
Right.
fix the holes that we've been kicking the can down the road for years. It's
Totally
gotta
agree.
be a mix.
I've been saying
So-
that for a couple of years now.
So I am supporting you.
Thank you.
That's
Some of these conversations have to go to the Jeff Gordons and Tammy Nuccios of the
Yes.
world. It doesn't help.
Absolutely.
You tell me that, that's great, I agree.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's
And I think-
one voice to Tammy Nuccio doesn't do much, and I like her, I think they both have done a lot for Wellington, I'm not disparaging them. But 5,500 voices carry a lot more weight than 3.
Right.
And those are the kind of conversations that we have to make sure that everyone knows. I'm sure people understand it, but we all need to be reminded of the different ways of just what you're saying, increasing revenue.
Yeah, and I think that that combined with the misinformation that's been out there, one of the frustrations for me during this budget process, especially the 10 hours I spent outside this meeting listening to what questions people were asking or what information was being provided. The amount of misinformation is there's no way of holding people accountable. And, we've heard that we want to have more meetings and get more information out there. People aren't getting it from what we're giving now. And the types of information that's out there is often outright wrong, sometimes just poorly presented. This increase is going to be 12.9%. No, that's over 4 years of data that 12.9% went up. But just putting the numbers in really tiny underneath doesn't make the headline of 12.9%. So there's a responsible use of data that is just missing. If it were done by a newspaper that had fact checkers, that is responsible for doing that. But people put information out there and there's nothing. So I think that one of the things we might want to think about is maybe there's a postcard next year. Every time a department has a budget, maybe there's information that's as simple as what's there. That's the official information. I love the fact that Superintendent Stevens, as soon as he started giving the Board of Ed a lot more information about the budget detail than the Board of Ed had gotten for 10 or 15 years previously. His information is there, it's up and online, but it's almost too much. I want somebody to say, these are the 3 drivers. This is, of why this went up. This is the last 10 years of increases. This is what that means to my tax dollar. Every time you go up.
I'm just gonna interrupt you for just a second, because I don't wanna lose this. I wanna reflect on what you just said.
Yeah.
Stephanie as chair of the Board of Finance, Sherry as our new finance manager, and I have all had multiple conversations through this budget season, and now that we're coming to the last sort of pieces of the budget season, and we know that the next one's gonna come quickly. About how to do this, about how to make it more presentable, how to get more information out, how to make it more easily digestible, because to your point about the information the superintendent puts out, for those who have the bandwidth or the time or the understanding to really dig in, it's great to have the data.
Right.
And it's transparency. But there also has to be data that's more accessible to everyone who has tight schedules, or maybe Maybe they really care about the schools because they have 3 kids in the schools, but they don't have a lot of time to read a lot of data because they're maybe making the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches or bathing the kids or whatever, right? So
Yeah.
we've got to find better ways to present it where you have something that's easily digestible and accessible, but then data if people want to dig into the data. And I just with Sherry looked the other day at what another town presents for their budget. It's a bigger town that has administration staff. They can put together a pretty budget package. But we took some clues from how they present their budget. And essentially, format is a really big deal. And there's a page for every department. And the beginning of that page is formatted exactly the same for every single department in town. And it has just some key facts on it. So that if you're just quickly going through, you look at the front, it has an index. It tells you what department is on what page. You go to that page and you're like, oh, okay, last 3 years, here's what's happened with the budget. Here are the key bullet points. It's all summarized on one page. And then if you want to dig into the details, there's, an addendum or an appendix or whatever. So I just wanted to let you know that that is
You're doing.
a very, well, we're talking about it.
You're planning it for.
We're doing what government does. We're talking about making it better. Let's see if we can actually make them better too.
Because it then also needs an executive summary for somebody who's got 10 minutes. They care about the town, they want to do what's right, but they don't have a lot of time to invest, and they're certainly not going to attend a 3-hour meeting or listen to a 3-hour
And
meeting
that
later.
packet we looked at had an executive summary in front.
So a 1-page executive summary, and maybe finding a way of sharing that like your community postcards, or even a link to that document from a community postcard for people who want more information. But it was really frustrating to me that misinformation and poor use of data, I would say bordering on irresponsible use of data, it had no way of fact checking it. Oh, I'm citing this source. Well, I couldn't find that source online anywhere. So there's no accountability for misinformation, and then there's no true authority that is putting out something as easily digestible. And there are people in town who would be willing to help you do design and layout and take some of the pressure off of staff. Of course, not to do the work itself, but to take some of that pressure off to get something together. Once you have the original format, the first time through, it'll go faster in future years.
Sure. Thank you for that. And
as a Board of Ed member.
identify yourself.
Ann Grosjean, 11 Birch Meadow Lane in Wilmington. As a board member, and myself, my own feelings, they refer to our budget as ask. And basically, our budget is a zero-based budget.
As what? As?
Ask. Someone referred to it as the ask.
Yes.
That's what we're asking for next year. And that's true, it is what we're asking for. But our budget is a zero-based budget. So it basically starts from the bottom, and it's based on what we spent our money on this year, what we needed this year, and projected needs for next year. So there's no fluff, there's no extra built in just in case. And already of the 428 that Stephanie mentioned, so far we're the language program, the library, some of our intervention staff, supplies, library books, even repairs, computers have all been deleted, are our consideration for deletion. Another thing and chairs, yes. Someone donated the chairs, so the chairs are good. But also, the thing now that I believe is on the table is pay for play sports. So that we'll have to ask each parent to pay $200 and something per sport for their child, so we can pay the coaches, the transportation, etc. So I just wanted to remind our residents that that's where we are so far. And that these were not frivolous things. These are things that make the school operate. So thank you.
Thank you. Online, John Jan.
Hi, everybody. I'm hearing everyone saying things like we need to attract more businesses to town to try to build up the commercial tax base and not rely so much on residential tax base. But oftentimes when I'm watching Facebook and what's going on in town, the same people are many of the same people who are on the vote no side for every budget, are also saying to stop any new commercial businesses from coming to town. The most recent one is the truck wash. People are marshaling against the truck wash. They want to attend the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting to see that it gets defeated. I think a truck wash right next to a truck stop is probably a good idea. It's probably a good moneymaker. And the trucks are already there. It's not like, I don't think we're going to attract many, many more trucks because we have a truck wash. But we see people opposing new business at the same time as demanding low taxes. And we need some kind of a education campaign for those folks to let them know that they're voting against their own self-interests when they say no new businesses and they try to keep the taxes low. I don't know what we can do to convince them, but an effort needs to be made.
Thank you. But
Tracy Anderson, 151. In a row. Just to go back to what Michelle was talking about with grants, to remind everyone that the Board of Ed budget includes a lot of grant reductions for 6 different programs for a total of around $670,000. So at previous meeting last week, I heard something about 6 figures being reduced from our budget. We already do that multiple times on our own for grants that Mr. Stevens and pulls in very creative ways to help us meet the needs of our students without having to put a burden on the taxpayers.
So those are grant requests that get honored?
No, they are part of our budget. They're in our sheet, and he puts them within the budget programs. For Center School Program 1, $37,285. Special education, that's the
Those are grants you received.
we receive them and we include them in our budget process. We don't put them to side. We include them as part of, as if we had that money, that money. It's not from the taxpayers, but it's part of the money that is applied. And it totals $670,000. So
Still taxpayer money, just comes from a different bucket.
well, and if you
People outside of Wellington sometimes.
Sometimes it does.
some of it's federal grants, Title I, Title IV, Title II, those are federal grants. But that needs to be factored in and realize that if we weren't using these grants, and in some cases, in some towns, these grants are put aside for a rainy day.
I see.
We use them
That's great.
in our budget every single year and have for a very long time.
That's wonderful.
And if we didn't have that, our budgets would be, our request would be much higher.
Who does that grant work? Physically, what persons do the grant work? Mostly Phil?
Mostly Phil. Some of it is federal grants like Title I is it has to do with like reading intervention, and the IDA grant has to do with special education. So there's some of them are targeted to certain departments or programs from the federal government. And another piece of that, when you talk about that, some of it comes, we're still paying it for out of our taxes.
I said that.
No, but we have to think about the fact that we're not in a bubble here. We have our bubble, that's our problem. But every single day for the month of June on the news was another budget that failed, or another town going to for their town budget or their school budget. Town after town after town. So that's a bigger problem at a higher level, state and national, that has to be considered by all of our residents too, that we're not, it's not a Wellington problem. This isn't Wellington Board of Ed's causing the problem, or Wellington selectmen are causing the problem.
Oh, no,
It's
not select. I think that's the important way.
It's a problem we have to figure out, and it is one of the reasons why our the government right prior to this budget process gave us some more money, because for years they were keeping the same formula. And hopefully next year in their budget season, they will
remember that and fix that problem so that we're not facing exactly the same problems. I know there's only a finite amount of money, but it's a bigger problem.
It is
We need to
systemic,
remember that.
yes. Mhm.
Cause we're very divided and we need to, I think, to come together more and I think that happened this year with, our Board of Ed and other, we spoke to the senators and congressmen and said, we can't do this anymore, you need to help us, and they heard us.
And they did. We also have a lot of advocacy from CROG and COST, the Council of Small Towns, because every town through their boards of ed and their selectmen's offices and mayors, we're all banging on those organizations and on their representatives saying this is becoming unsustainable. And when I met with Chris Murphy and his team 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, there were multiple town officials at this meeting, and we each got individual time. But you're sort of in a line and you hear what other people are talking about, and everyone was talking about the same thing. Like everybody there were people from Norwich and Groton and a very nice gentleman I have a new sort of work friendship with from Connecticut. And all these different towns of different sizes and economic makeups were all talking about some similar problems. Even if they had big tax bases, they were talking about legislation coming out requiring certain things, often things they agreed with were valuable things, but no money to do it. And at the same time, the state also taking money that should be going to the town and putting it other places. So it's not just that the costs are going up without the funding, it's also the funding we were already getting is getting pulled down. So we're obviously going in the wrong direction here, and the taxpayers are getting stretched in between that to fill that gap. And that message was clear, again, from the small towns to the towns with lots of tax base, that the legislature and the governor's office and all that have to look at some of these things differently and help with managing. And if the state, the state has said on a lot of things, hey, we're interested in, if you can find economies in regionalizing, that would be great. But then the state should be working on what the regulations are and some of the difficulties with regionalizing. And maybe they have to pump up county government to have more value if you're going to do regionalization or whatever. I'm not saying it has to be that specific answer, but saying, there's a lot of roadblocks in the way of these great ideas. So it can't just be great ideas. You have to also stop taking away the casino funding that's supposed to go to the towns to balance the state budget. Let's be more practical about this conversation instead of just pushing it all out to the taxpayers. So
the other line, wouldn't it be great if is a scary one when it comes to the legislature, because everybody has one little nugget that they think would be wonderful, but with no mechanism to fund it. And, that's one of the things I've observed over my short time on this planet. Our wants expand over time. And that costs us money. It costs us in a lot of ways. And it also makes us less self-reliant. And that was one of the things about Wellington that I think we had a lot of pride in. We were a very self-reliant town in my younger years. And, we were providing more for our residents, which is great when you can afford to do that. But if you don't have the grand list, the tax base, to help fund some of those things, it all comes out of everybody's pocket, even though there may be just a small portion of the community that it benefits. And that's a balancing act. It's very difficult.
In light of it being 9 o'clock and we still have a budget to cut $70,000 out of, I'd like to just say, is there, John, do you have a short comment? We can kind of wrap up.
Yeah, one short comment. I saw an intriguing method of trying to raise revenue the other day, and it occurs to me that it could actually work here in Wellington. Um, People have been instituting in various municipalities have been instituting a special tax on any corporation doing business within that municipality, in which the corporation has to pay an additional tax based on how high their CEO pay is. Since the 1980s, CEO pay has risen amazingly high, and the average line workers' wages have basically stagnated over all that time. It used to be that the average CEO made 25 to 50 times more than the line worker. These days, that's up in the 800 to 1,000 range, or even higher for many corporations. Federal Express is a case in point. Their CEO makes 288 times the average line worker at Federal Express. So it might be advantageous for us to consider an ordinance along those lines to raise additional revenue. You would want to do some kind of a balancing act so that the costs of moving out of Wellington would be more expensive than just paying the tax. That could be, quite the balancing act mathematically, but it's something that's at least worth considering. And perhaps if the state of Connecticut were to issue something like that statewide, and we could all share in the revenues, that might make more sense.
I'm not sure about that. We'd be at the mercy of legislature as to who got it and what it went toward.
I think we're already at that. Thank you, John. Anyone else online? Final comments for this discussion?
In a way, he's got a point. FedEx got a hell of a gift from us after rebound.
Yeah. Okay, anyone else in the room? Final comments? Thank you all. Again, this was a little non-traditional, but I wanted to, I suggested this idea. Thank you for the credit to these two guys. Yes, I'm being catty. It's getting late. So we gave it a shot. We'll get some information. We've heard some more stuff. Hopefully we can do a better job going forward. And I'd like to move to the next item on the agenda. You guys ready?
Yes.
Okay. Where's
Work, discussed as we're preparing. The on-demand report is really from, this is the entire fiscal year through 6/30/2026. That's what I'm reading.
Yes.
So any of these numbers, a webmaster stipend, we budgeted that, we spent that. It's a positive number, so that means we didn't spend that much.
In general, yes. I will say there's one caveat to that. That was the year to date at the end of the fiscal year. There are still some bills coming in.
Yeah, I understand.
Right, because like activity that happened in June is not necessarily billed.
Bill that came in on the.
So it's not exactly dollar for dollar, but it was the closest we had.
Would it be fair to say in August, by the end of August, if we saw this report again, it probably would be accurate?
Yeah, they're pushing everyone to get all their bills in, but like businesses that send invoices in, we just have to wait for them to show up.
Yeah.
But the goal would be to close the, by the second week of August, to close the fiscal year.
So let's say September 1st.
But we're processing, if a bill comes in, we're processing it immediately, just to try to get it.
I mean, you got 30, 60 days to pay a bill.
Right.
That's so reasonable. All right, so if we could just remember to look at this again, I'd like to see this again on 9/1. And see.
You may even see it before that, because once Sherry, once everyone's in agreement and Sherry closes the fiscal year, we have a lock number anyway. Cool. If that happens earlier than September 1st, we'll know that.
But at least I can use these as sort of working.
Okay, so I understand on this sheet.
I just want to point out, we're on old business, make budget adjustments, resolve previous Board of Finance reductions of $70,000 to the general government budget.
Right.
Which was passed in referendum June 2nd. Okay. Just wanted to make sure we set our spot in the agenda.
Yeah. Okay, when I look at the on-demand report, far right column.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously it says budget balance.
Yes.
Is that with or without the encumbrance?
That is after the encumbrance is calculated in.
So if all obligations were met, that would be what's unspent.
Correct, right, so if you look at this top line, the balance is actually this $6,800 number,
Less than.
and less the encumbrance gives you the remaining budget. Yep. So that is presumably right, unless, and so that's a great example, so that's a salary line, so there may be one more pay period that's gonna affect this, but it should be covered in the encumbrance.
Yes.
It should be covered because it's predictable. So presumably this number is good number.
Okay. So, and that would, depending on what it was, in this case it was a salary, but if it wasn't a salary,
Right.
and it was a department cost,
Then you could have like an invoice still coming in from payroll supplies.
but you could have a shortfall elsewhere that would cover.
Yes, because again, keep in mind, the budgets are typically balanced by department.
Right.
Right.
So when we get down to this,
So when you get down to the line department, like for this example, is the first selectman's budget. That you're looking at right there appears like it's going to have surplus.
right,
Yes. Correct. And as long as this number is in the black, the line items have covered each other.
correct. That's.
Yeah, you are correct. Yep. So if a department overall is in the black, that's the critical piece. If the department is not, like for example, transfer station is way in the red. And the reason it's way in the red is mostly because, we had a long employee illness outage, and that person, was earning salary for a lot of the year, burning sick time or whatever. And then they had to be covered, and the people covering for them were getting overtime, so they were earning at time and a half. So it just was a significant, it was coverage for an open position. So I have some ideas to throw out if you guys want to go to the lines when I throw them out there.
Sure.
I've spent some time, obviously, because I'm in the building every day, I've spent some time talking to different departments, going over the budget, going over the status, looking at what was proposed. And I think there are a couple places we can make a big jump. We have sort of a strategy decision to make in employee insurance. Right now, we are budgeted over, and I'll take it if you want to go in the other, do you have the other budget report also, Andy?
Yeah.
This
That one?
This one, yeah, if you go to, page 10. And you'll see a line for employee insurance.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So. Right, so, the total for Department 831 employee insurances. We are budgeted for an extra we are budgeted for one extra employee at the family level to cover if we hired someone during the year. So strategically, do we take that out? We could save a lot of money if we take that out. The only problem would be then we would potentially have to come back for an adjustment or get money from another department if we hire someone during the year who puts their family on the insurance. Or we split the difference. And if we hire someone during the year and they don't put their family on, they only insure themselves, we keep enough money in the budget to cover that. So that's
We do have a hire coming up.
we do have a hire for the assistant, the accounting assistant, yes. So I think that right now we are, find the matching line in the current budget. I think we are. Between, people who have left town and people who have, between people who have left town and budgeting the extra person, that line,
41,715.
yeah, I think that line, we could consider that line to be $40,000. Unencumbered, if you will. So my feeling is, and I'm gonna suggest, we don't have to vote on it yet, but I'm gonna suggest we take 30,000 out of that.
And which line is it on the general ledger? Is that on there?
It's, yeah, it's the same department number. If you take that 831, okay, Department 831, you'll find it's in numerical order in this one also.
Okay.
It's just, this one is almost twice as many pages. So if this is on page 10, start at like page 8 or 9.
All right.
So what if we were to,
So I was thinking if we took 30,000 out and left 10,000 in there. It's just a suggestion.
yeah, do we know the premium difference between family and employee?
It's not exact because it also depends on the employee's age and all that other stuff. So there's a pretty wide variation. It could go, it's like a 20-some $1,000 range from least to most.
So you're thinking, here's 30.
30 out of the 40, leave 10,000 in there.
Which would reduce this number here, correct?
Yes.
Insurances.
Yes, right. So if you wanna leave that as a placeholder, I have these written down so we can come back to them.
Okay.
If you wanna leave that as a placeholder. I looked at the defibrillators, the defibrillator budget. And that is to maintain, you know, they have to update, they have to, you know, get service, they have to get updated pads and all that other stuff. I think based on where our spend is currently, and that is, on page 6 of this budget. At the time this one was printed, we were only, 10% spent, but more has been spent since then. You'll find it in there.
232.
Yeah, 232, so it's probably around like page 11-ish. AED 32, AED is on page 11, yeah. And we're now up to, so we have essentially $4,000 remaining out of the 6,000 right now. I think we could, take $3,000 out of that budget for the coming year. So that's what I'm throwing out there for a suggestion. And then if you back up a couple pages, in land use, we're running pretty well over budget. Which budget? So it's gonna be either page 4 or page 7, maybe. Yeah. Then use. Right here, 171 planning and zoning.
Yeah.
Sorry, I should have said land use. I should have said planning and zoning. It seems to me like we could afford to lose $5,000 out of that. 170. We're, right now, we're $13,000 available.
You were talking about how much?
I was saying maybe we could take 5,000 out of that. And then back up to page 2 on the colored sheet. Which is maybe page 4 on this. Assessor, which is Department 134. There you go. We're at $7,500 right now. Remaining. And my suggestion was it had increased by 1.7%, which was $2,577. And I was suggesting maybe we just flat that.
Sorry, what line is that?
So in there, it is, page 2 at the bottom on this one.
Page 2.
Page 2 on the bottom of this one.
Okay.
For,
Backwards, yeah.
middle of the page on, page 4 on this one.
Yeah.
You're looking at using seven. Hang
on. Just gotta make sure. Well, no, I was saying take 20, the increase for the year was 2577. I was saying flatline that. So take the 2577 out of it. So essentially be 0 from year to year. We don't have to keep these numbers. I suggested what I thought was safe to.
We see here, we have budget balance of 7,500.
Right, and I just don't know, I did not have time to talk with Kara to be sure that there wasn't something left.
What's the biggest not right in here?
Well, so there's the personal property audit and, tax mapping that look like they haven't been, heavily hit. And like the personal property audit has not been hit at all yet. So I'm guessing they didn't have to. So I figured the 2577 was close to the budget for the personal property audit.
I don't know about the tax mappings.
Well, I just figured we should come up with a number and not completely wipe out the budget for the whole department. So I just came up with the 2577.
Out of that whole,
Out of the whole department. Yeah.
We just make it 2,500. Why do we add those?
Just
why do we add them?
So they're gonna get a $77 increase. So they get 2,500 stuff.
Okay.
All right. And then, dog fund, which is page 11 on the colored sheet.
Yes.
The last page on the colored sheet.
How are we on,
I'm gonna tell you exactly how we are on everything.
Good. I want to know.
Because that is what affects this. So. Right now we transfer out the dog operation costs more than this to operate.
Understood.
But there's revenue, like from dog tags and all that stuff. So the amount that we pay into it is $27,597. The first year of the RPIP grant should be this year we're in now. We think will be signed by October, hopefully. So you're on line 11-0511 transfer out dog fund. We hope to have the agreement signed by October for the regional animal control. And so that will, if we have it signed by October, that would reduce 3/4 of the year of that budget by like 60%. So if you took 3/4, I did the math earlier. If you did 3/4 of 27,000, and then so make it an easy number to work with. I don't know, 26,000, 13. Yeah.
14,000
And then the grant will pay 60%. Basically, I can't give you an exact number because we don't know when we're gonna send a
No, right.
That's the problem.
And the grant, but that doesn't,
So-
that's not forever, that's for 1 year.
No, well, no, the grant is 3 years, but it's 75% coverage for the first year.
Yeah.
And then it's 50% and then 25%.
But it's still less than this.
Oh, yeah, so
less than
my
that.
feeling was it would be safe to take $10,000.
I think that's a good idea.
And then fire department's gonna hate me for this, but if you look at the increases for the fire departments, we're both, you know, fair, if you look over the, couple of years you have on this budget, you have a fairly good, costs obviously have gone up a lot. Again, this is the back page, oh, you're on there, so the back page, the colored one right here.
Yep.
If you look at, if you look at budget growth on this line 2 and line 3.
Yep.
If you see where they started 2 years ago to where they are now, it's fairly significant growth. Again, expensive, it's an expensive business to do.
Yep.
I'm not saying it's greedy. I mean, obviously, I'm an officer in one of the fire departments. But my thinking was we could at least cut maybe like $2,500 out of each of them, which would add another $5,000 to our tally.
What are you talking about, 232?
Yes, the two lines that are 18,232 for the two fire departments, so basically be $5,000 total. Now, where that puts us so far, if you're ready to hear a subtotal.
5K total.
5K total, yeah.
Good.
That puts us right now at having reduced 55,500 out of our 70.
Nice. Good there.
All right, so if you want to keep moving forward, Sherry went over her own budget for the finance office. Page 2 of the colored sheet. And that is Department 130, accounting services. And, she felt we could probably, squeeze $7,000 out of that budget. And I mean, she is in charge of the finance department. 130 right here. She thought we could reduce this.
All accounting services.
Yeah.
60.
Yeah, so she thought we could squeeze, I wasn't gonna go quite that far, but she runs the finance department, we might argue with her. Yeah, so page 2 on the color sheet, page 4 in your
When I look at the on-demand report, I'm seeing a negative number.
Yes, but that is, because there were current year, let's see, hang on, I have to go back and find that. There was a reason for that. 130. Yes. But I believe if you go back a page. Yes, so, there were two things that, pushed this budget over, and that was, Donna was on payroll until almost the end of the fiscal year. So we were carrying her salary because she was a senior level employee, she was at a high level of salary. The new, Sherry is at a lower level because she's a less seniority. So there's a savings there. And there was a lot of overtime paid during this budget season for coverage because we had 3 employees instead of 4 in the office.
Anyway, what are you looking at there?
Well, Sherry was saying take 7 out. I was thinking a little less than that, but it's her budget, it's her department. If she guesses too high, we'll take another 7.
You want to reduce that by?
Well, let's go with Sherry's number, the $7,000.
Okay.
So,
Be careful what you ask for.
so we're at 62.5 now.
I'm curious about on line 13 of the, on-demand report. They got line items for diesel for Wellington Hill and,
Page 13, are you?
and, there's 0.
Yes.
Never spent any. So does it all come out of Public Works?
Yeah, so what happens is they wait till the end of the year. They do it predicted on percentages,
Right.
based on past history. They wait till the end of the year and then they square it up.
With Public Works.
Yeah, it's covered in the Public Works budget.
Okay.
Yes.
So when I'm looking at those numbers, that's pretty much the deficit for the Public Works diesel, more or less. Give or take.
Well, yeah, so Public Works diesel is over.
Right. But then you look at the other 2 line items for Wellington,
They pretty much.
the fire department balances out their deficit, right? 9.2
Well,
or 9. Am I reading that wrong?
Yeah.
Yes, you are reading, no, you are not reading that
I'm not
wrong.
reading it wrong.
Yes, you are correct.
Okay, cool.
So
it isn't really a Public Works deficit on diesel once you add in.
I believe that these
Maybe it's a
balance,
couple of bucks.
because these are predicted as, see the percentages on the left side?
Yes.
They're predicted at 70%, 7%, 23%.
Yeah, but I mean,
So
but that's.
yes, so they square it up at the end of the
But it's
year.
been budgeted, that's what.
Yes.
So that goes that 92 and 24.
Right.
Another thing I was wondering about is just road salt, road sand. Is there a way to? Do we always pre-treat?
No, depends on what the weather conditions will be and.
Sorry, so we're doing that big off of weather reports.
It's
Predicted weather. And the salt sand mix, is that a prescription that is mandated, or can a town use less salt? If that's, to reduce it, does it have to be a certain percentage by some decree? When do we start compromising school transportation?
It is not that prescriptive. It is experience and judgment of the road crew and the road crew foreman.
And the weather.
And then it also changes during the storm.
Of course.
The weather, when you're running in those temperatures right around freezing, all you need is a degree or 2 to go different from prediction and you have either a melting or a freezing you didn't plan on. So it's a lot of seat of the pants.
I wonder if there's any savings within that seat of the pants. Judgment call.
The problem is, and I think there's also seat of the pants about like time of day, is the school's gonna be running. So like, for example, the school parking lots, may not get plowed right away on a weekend, and then they may not treat them right away on the weekend, and you might save one cycle of treating them, because maybe you don't treat them until Monday morning.
Correct.
But so it's very fluid. So we need $7,500. Now, here's my suggestion. This one is gonna be, I think, this one requires more provoking of thought. I think we, talk about, changing the model at the transfer station. And we start, instead of allowing people to bring a pickup truck load every single week for bulk, we cut that back. And then that will reduce our tonnage going out, which will reduce the fees because we pay a lot of money for bulk. And anything after whatever limit we set would get charged anyway, because you get charged right now $50 when you go over your, like if you go twice in a week, you're supposed to get charged $50 for your second bulk load. And so would increase fees and B, reduce tipping charges on the bulk. And then we could cut some money out of the transfer station budget, because the transfer station budget is going wild.
Yeah, the other thing, I mentioned this about cardboard. I'm wondering if we can get people to increase their contribution in cardboard by making it perfectly clear what kind of cardboard is.
We're working on that, and we did some on the postcard, and we're continuing to drive. Public Works has been messaging about it, and they're trying to talk, like, when I was up there the other day, they were talking to every person unloading and clarifying which cardboard. So yes, we need to keep going on that. That does help.
Cereal boxes, pasta boxes, or
brown toilet paper rolls. Yeah, all those things.
Brown craft paper.
Is that craft? I don't remember the craft paper answer.
We also need to work on Casellas to get more dumpsters because they fill up long before the people are done bringing things in.
So we're sending out, on some weeks, we fill 3 bulk containers. That is 35 to 40 tons of bulk going out. And we're paying a lot for that.
Yeah, well, I see a lot of things going into bulk.
Yeah, and we have businesses in town that, use unmarked pickup trucks, and they come in every single week. And they click their one click on the card, and they do their 1 weekly unload. And, they are putting business garbage in the thing, and we're all paying for their business, which is business garbage is not supposed to go in the transfer station.
Yeah, I think over the last 10 years, I've had my card punched once.
I don't even know if I carry it in my phone.
Man, if you're just throwing one thing in there.
Yeah, I don't even have it in my wallet.
Maybe they should. Should they start budgeting it for less than truckloads?
So my
It'll work for them.
So my feeling is we have $7,500 to go. We take 7,500 out of the transfer station, and we institute a fee.
How about the Memorial Day car show?
We have the town's 300th anniversary coming up next year.
Okay, never mind.
All right, that's only it's literally like $3,000. Never mind. We have got to do some stuff for our 300th anniversary.
Do we have the capacity to enforce them?
We're just about to hire a new employee.
We'll be retiring in November. Right?
We also have another employee who just left service also, in like May or June.
Okay.
So we're gonna have 2 new people at the transfer station, and they're gonna have to annoy all of us when we come up there and enforce the rules, which is difficult for them and it's annoying to all of us. But the free ride just can't keep going on.
Yeah,
The transfer station is $15,000 or $20,000 over budget.
remember my first meeting in Lebanon was at the transfer station.
And I will. Was he a smooth talker? The other thing I will point out, and this, I don't want people to think that this is facetious or calling out a particular group or not, but people had expressed concern to me that if we consider starting to charge in general at the transfer station, that has an effect on certain populations in town, and that if we charge on bulk, we're less likely to be affecting senior citizens who are the least likely able to pay the extra. Because senior citizens are less likely to be bringing bulk. Not guaranteed, but over time.
How do we compare, with other transfer stations with respect to fires?
Oh, I should have brought it down. I got the printouts from some of the other towns. I have them up on the desk and I meant to bring them down, but a lot of towns charge for like, oh, you name it, like all kinds of stuff.
Even Ashford has started charging for.
Yeah, and rolls of garbage bags that are marked for that town, and you can only throw away your garbage, with the right bags. You don't send in a bag and like.
Yep, they give the
Back
bag.
when your tires is a big.
A lot of towns charge a small amount for time, $5 or whatever.
Yeah, but what's it cost us?
I don't remember. We'd have to ask.
No, I don't have a problem with the vote.
Well, what we'd have to do though, if we cut it out of the budget, then we've got to move forward with getting a fee structure in place this year to make up for it.
Understood.
I'm sure Troy can help with that or whatever. I wouldn't mind, we should be looking at those numbers, what it costs to get rid of this stuff.
We did back when we were having budget discussion, but it was so long ago.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Would it be possible to, get a vehicle count? Do we have that? Do we have the means, the equipment to do vehicle counts? Of who uses the transfer station in a month, Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday?
Well, if we move forward with this, we're gonna have to have meetings with Troy and Heather and get going on figuring
It
this
would be
out.
worth figuring that out, because you got 5,500 residents and you have 6,000 vehicles. You might wanna question who's actually at the transfer station. Because there really shouldn't be that many vehicles, because what do we have, 1,300 single family homes? Give or take? Or I don't know, 1380s.
I think it's closer.
It's under 2,000, isn't it? And 1,900, okay, so. That should be about the number of vehicles going.
When I was doing the revale analysis, I think I had
1,900, okay. I can't remember. But that would probably be a reasonable number of vehicles to expect on a given. Should be way less than that. Should be way less than that. So not some people do use garbage service, trash service. Anyway, it would be interesting to compare the number of vehicles and the number of tires that goes out. And that would give you a kind of a guess how much per vehicle be something to work with.
What do you guys think of these numbers? We take 7,500 out of the transfer station. That gives us our 70,000. Do you feel like we've spread it around town fairly? Keep in mind, these are my suggestions.
No, I understand.
No, you spent a lot of time with it.
Do we have to vote on this tonight, or can we let this slide?
Sherry's gonna kill us. She needs to enter it to start the New Year's budget. She has to enter these changes into the departments. Because right now the New Year's budget is $70,000 over.
Yeah, very.
You wanna ruminate on it for a couple of days and then we'll call a special meeting on Zoom for 5 minutes and vote on these?
What do you think, Andy? You ready to just implement this, or do you want?
I don't have any better ideas, but I spent some time on it. I was thinking more about how to, but anyway, I think you said you talked to these.
I haven't talked to everybody, I've not talked to everybody.
You talked to everybody, but you talked to some.
Right.
I don't have a problem with any of this.
Or Chief Moore was here earlier and then he left and we got something out of his budget after.
Yeah, right.
I did have a chance to talk to Chief Snyder today, but I didn't have a chance to talk to him.
On the end of the report.
Yeah.
We have a 9 million budget, we spent 88.
Yep.
So.
It shows we have a lot of money still, right?
Nah, not really, we have 287,000.
Right, well, yeah.
Well, that's probably not true, but this year, what will the grand total look like? If we.
Well, that you can't base it solely, like, the math would be more complicated we could do here, because keep in mind, in account 1, ledger number 1 is, there are other things in here, like if you look at this sheet, if you go back a page or two, you're gonna see some capital projects in there. Because the money is intentionally being held in account 1 for those projects.
That's what I.
So it's throwing off.
That's what I thought.
It's showing you this extra balance, and then you're gonna have that as surplus at the end of the budget year, because they're capital projects, but those type of capital projects are kept in account 1.
That's what I was, just want to clarify that. That's why I said.
Right. So a capital project that's funded out of the general fund, it's in Fund One.
Yep.
Whereas, like, if it was a capital project that's funded from LoSiP, it would sit in account 2, so you're not seeing it on this report. Right.
Not part of our operating budget at this point.
Right, it just shows up when you tell the computer, I wanna see everything in account number 1, this is what you get.
Well, I'd be probably comfortable with waiting a couple of days and then coming to a special meeting. How much does that set Sherry back on her work?
As long as she's not on right now and screaming at us, I think we can get away with it.
Alright.
What I will do tomorrow is I will put specific department and line numbers to each of these, so that we can make the motions with the proper line numbers on it. I will email them to both of you, and then, we will set a special meeting by Zoom. Can we decide on that tonight? So that we can advertise it tomorrow?
Yeah.
What is today? Today, yeah, we'll put up the agenda tomorrow. Well, no, it'll be online, so we should do. Well, we could use a special meeting. We have our special meeting link already posted, right? So we could use a special meeting link, so we could do it Wednesday or Thursday.
Thursday.
Let's do Wednesday.
Wow, and I got Pilates, interpretive dance.
Yeah, right.
I'll work
It just gets worse as the night gets later.
Well, it's an hour.
Okay, so, what are you guys thinking for? What are you doing during the day on Wednesday, Andy?
Cancel classes. I should be, I'll make it work.
I bet we can make sure enough he's right in between some classes. I'm sure he can. Yeah. What's a good time for you?
Right after card sheet.
Because we'll be relaxed.
Yeah.
What's a good time for you on Wednesday?
Okay.
Let's do 1:30 PM, right after lunch.
Right after lunch, we'll be in that valley of fatigue, perfect.
Alright, we'll put out an agenda tomorrow. It'll be a Zoom only meeting, and it'll be our special meeting Zoom link, which is already posted online.
That meets all the requirements, 24, 40 hours.
We have been through multiple verifications of that, haven't we, Hannah?
And Hannah does a great
Painfully, painfully so.
And is killing it on this thing.
It's not even how you spell special. Oh, no, it is. Oh, no. I'm adding you to, down to it right now. Not that anyone needs reminders. I do myself.
And, will there be anything else on the agenda while you're? It doesn't. Doesn't matter.
All right. I just got an email to both of you guys.
Thank you.
Okay, there's a hiccup on. Okay.
Okay, I'll in my agenda. All right, so that was old business.
Good.
11A, we're on to good and welfare.
That's something I wanted to talk about.
Get well, Lisa Eaton. We heard that she had an accident. Hope she heals well. Just a reminder that the FEMA has issued a flood watch through tomorrow morning between all the rain and soggy soils and all those other things. A reminder that your tax bills are coming.
Yay.
They will be about a month late, and the tax payment time period, instead of being in July, is now in August. August 1st to September 2nd. After September 2nd, you are delinquent in your taxes. I have been trying to find ways to encourage a sense of community. That, you know, we had some sense of that on Memorial Day, even with the abbreviated program, it was a good feel in the building. Most recently about the fire department cadets, we had 4 cadets 2 years ago. I want to keep encouraging that, and I want to keep sending that message out to the community. It is a pandemic across all of politics of anger and distress on all sides. And I want to keep encouraging community. We are a community. We will succeed better if we are taking better care of each other. And we will also be a little bit less stressed if we're not always attacking each other. Says you. We'll finish this outside. I'm sorry.
It's late night, you know, I got I don't mean to be frivolous. I do mean to be frivolous.
I appreciate a little levity. Okay. Anything else for good welfare?
Not that I can think of.
There will not be a fight outside the parking lot.
No. But I do think the more we can, every time we outreach and try to communicate with in conversational style, I think it's beneficial.
Okay, is that it for good welfare? We're back to present to speak. All right. I see a hand up. We'll go online first. Jen?
Hi, thank you so much. I appreciate everyone's efforts tonight to take a lot of care and thought about all of the big things that are happening in town. And I also appreciate the conversation that you guys had about the transfer station, who those charges might affect, and trying to minimize that as much as possible on the senior citizens. I would like for you guys also to extrapolate that to the school budget and understand that pay to play is on the table, and those who are least able to afford it are not going to be able to send their kids to sports anymore. And teachers are going to be losing their jobs. Not that it's our job to employ teachers, but it's our job to educate our students. So I would hope that everybody sitting in this room will have as much care and concern about the stakeholders of the education budget that you do for the $70,000 that you had to cut out of the general education budget. And I also want to thank my fellow board members for sitting through this entire 3 and almost a half hour meeting.
Thank you. John Tehan.
Hi, everyone. I made a note of this in the chat, but as far as the transfer station is concerned, I've been there for several weekends in a row with our Vote Yes tent. I've seen out of state plates using the transfer station. So either people are living in town and registering their cars elsewhere, or people who don't live here at all are using the transfer station one way or the other. The guys at the transfer station should be examining license plates and saying, yeah, you don't belong here. To anybody, when I first registered with the transfer station, when I got here, I got my first sticker. I had to show my car's registration. I had to show my license that, yes, I live in Wellington. And anybody that's using that facility should be forced to prove that they live here in Wellington and that they actually pay taxes here in Wellington. That would be a good start.
Thank you. Anybody else online? All right, let's go to the room.
Thank you. Jim Marshall, Fisher Over again. I'm gonna put my CIP chair hat on, and speak from that perspective. I'll just say thank you for not, I know budget reductions are tough and you're just trying to figure out where in the budget things are coming from, as imposed by the Board of Finance. I appreciate that further cuts to capital reserve were not made, so thank you. With that said, CIP hasn't met in a couple of months because the next We are meeting this Wednesday, but we haven't met in a couple of months because without a budget, we can't really evaluate too much. So what I would ask, just from that perspective, if you guys are meeting on Wednesday, Mike, if your office could just follow up and confirm what you said tonight was maintained, or if any changes related to CIP are made, let me know. So
let me just clarify one thing on that point. I think unless there's a very compelling argument, I don't believe we should be touching capital at this point. The simple reason being is the taxpayers in previous referendum approved the capital plan. With the caveat, it is just a plan, but they approved it, and they approved the general government budget, which funded that plan. So my interpretation of that is the intent of the townspeople was that's been approved.
Eric, just if you could follow up, I'd appreciate it. I also, because we haven't met in months, I just wanted to redistribute this, which was actually for the Emergency Services Facilities Building Committee, but since you guys are all related to it, it's just a letter that we issued back in March. Just basically looking for help and guidance in determining what the long-term plans are. It sounds like we haven't made too much progress on that, but putting it on your radar that we are probably 4 months away from accepting requests again. And I, quite frankly, don't want to come and have to evaluate a complete unknown because the ESFBC hasn't advanced what it was put aside for. And to that end, just again, it sounds like you're honestly trying to convert funding to another project, or to advance Station 13, which I guess in the absence of doing anything, or in the absence of advancing a larger project, we'll revert back to that. But
it's not only the absence, it's in concert with.
Yeah, I mean, we're advancing the grant application also for a potential fire station project. I mean, we are
understood. With that said, though, we seem to have lost the thread of what the purpose of the funding that the CIP committee did provide initially, which was.
I don't think that's true.
Well, again,
well, maybe it's the CIP.
So that funding was meant to. The highlighted portion there is just from the Board of Finance, but that funding was anticipated for you guys to study what the long-term overarching plan was, and you are doing that with the station location center.
Correct.
But 2.5 years later, or whatever the case may be, we are no closer to determining the budget. We are no closer to even evaluating what the projects are, and that's why I said this.
I don't think it's true that we are no closer. We are closer.
We've done a station location study. I'm not trying to engage in a debate. I'm just saying, looking ahead 4 months.
Well, you started one because you said we're not doing something that I believe we are.
Okay.
And for the public record, I think that's important.
I appreciate that. What I'm trying to say is we are 4 months away from accepting CIP submissions for the coming year. And we are, from what I judge from observing, and I do pay attention to meetings, we are no closer at all to having any sort of defined project or any sort of defined path for this community, exploring multiple options. And I say that knowing that that work is possible because the SBC is doing that, and they've done it in a much shorter time frame. The fact that we can't advance that work is starting to have negative effects in our long-term planning. And I would just, again, encourage you guys, if we're not moving the needle, hire the professional assistants to do the work and to help guide you in a more effective path. Because we are looking at another budget season where we're not going to be there again. I hope it's different. I hope you can get there, but just because the conversations are hard to have every year, we can plan in a vacuum, and we are looking to save money towards a future project in the CIP budget. We started it this year. We can't continue to advance that if we don't have any definition of what you guys are trying to do on the EFSBC. So I think your point is well taken, but I think part of the resistance to your comments is the fact that if there was anything we did accomplish this year was we got the study released, which is an advancement. So to say we're not anywhere closer is two project budgets or project scope and scale. You are not closer.
Okay, but that was not the term you just used.
Well, then.
So I'm not interested at this hour in getting into a pissing match about this. You and I have talked about this already.
This was President Speak. I didn't plan this to be a back and forth.
Okay,
This was making a comment.
we are,
But I think it is imprudent for fiscal consciousness that if we're looking to spend money on
yes,
other projects or Station 13 or convert that funding to another use, that is not what the intent was, and it's
yes.
not.
And you will also remember that $200,000 in committee funds was originally intended for a completely different purpose and was realigned.
No, it wasn't, because that, you can check with the minutes I just gave you, Mike.
It was originally money for Willington Hill Fire Department for
It's not.
engineering and design over here.
It was not. We added an additional 200,000. Those funds were still in that. It was never converted.
No, that was the 110 that got wiped out a couple
And
years later.
80 for Willington. No, it was not.
Okay,
This is
so
additional funding. And again, you guys are the one making this a back and forth. I'm allowed.
yes, you are allowed, but you are also presenting yourself as the chair of the committee that is advisory to this board.
And that's fair. I'll give you that.
Okay,
Excellent.
and we appreciate the advising. That's different from admonishment, okay?
There was no admonishment. There was comment. We are looking at 4 months from now.
Okay, so I'm glad to hear there's no admonishment. We are very aware that we are not making the progress we should be making, but we also have 50 million other things.
I get that.
Yeah.
Thank you for your consideration.
Is there anybody else in the room? Well, let's make sure isn't anybody else in the room. Lost this thing.
So, yeah, okay.
So move.
I'm in, we're in a second. Or else,
I'll second.
I second.
Okay, all right, we are adjourned at 9:56. Sound good?
9:56.
It's on my mind, I just need to.
Well, I've got to sign things.
Yeah, you gotta sign some stuff. I think probably.